like when I'm just out and about. But when I
Yeah,
go
yeah.
gym, I don't mind tying it up. So because I'm in my gym kit, I feel a bit more
Right.
comfortable.
I
So,
wish I had enough hair to tie up, bro.
I know. I'm
Hey,
saying, I'm saying this to you, bro. Sorry.
um, but yeah, we'll crack on with the podcast, man, and just get into
Yeah,
it.
mate.
Yeah, I know we're
There were
both.
some tough questions. Obviously, you sent them over, and
Yeah.
mm,
I wanted to. I kind of wanted to just put everything in perspective, and obviously, as you know who my next guest is, so that's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
that's kind of going to be a bit more of a review about life and stuff as well. But
Mm.
yeah, first episode, official first episode to be released for 2022 is season 2, episode 6 of the Over the Hill podcast, and my first special guest of the year is also the first person I actually recorded a podcast with for this series. So, welcome back, man. Like BQ.
I feel honoured, man. Actually, like when you know, like when you first sent me a text saying, would you fancy doing it? I thought, what? Like, it's true, man. I was the first one you recorded the podcast. I was like your guinea pig. I was your AstraZeneca guinea pig. You
Mate,
know what I mean?
all of us in society are guinea pigs, apparently. So, but yeah,
Really,
um, giving a-
we've already lost everyone already.
giving away who's on the next episode. But no, I'll go into detail before the end about who we got coming up on the
Yeah,
next show
yeah,
because there's a really interesting one, that one. But yeah, I wanted to do a year of 2021 in review, and someone who I know has always got solid opinions and someone who's always interesting to talk to is you. So I thought, who
I
better
do
to?
have splinters in my arse though with some things.
Of course,
I
you know,
do, I do,
bruv.
I
Sometimes
do.
you've got to sit on the fence about a few things in it. So uh,
Mm.
I wanted
Yeah,
to. I sent you over a list of stuff, and there's
yeah.
obviously there's a few predictions as well for 2022. But I wanted to start with something nice and easy. Um, and I think we'll probably kick off with your sporting moment of 2021.
Sporting moment. See now, I thought about this yesterday, and because I was sort of torn between two, and I think one of them was sort of spoiled politically by um, people from the left and the right. When I don't quite know how you pronounce her name, but Emma, who won the tennis,
Yeah, Emma Radacano. Yeah,
Radacano, when she won it, like it was like it brought everyone together, like weirdly for like a split second, and then it got torn apart
yeah,
by you know the left saying like, oh, oh, it's funny because she's half this, half that, and blah 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 blah. And I just thought, oh, you know what, you've ruined it. So I sort of swerved that, and then there is a question later on that you asked, which I thought, oh, maybe I could use that, as that answer. But then again, it's only for a split second. So my sporting moment has to be um, Lewis Hamilton losing the F1 championship. I think you predicted that. That's what I'm saying.
Lewis losing as opposed to Max winning. It's interesting how you frame that.
Yeah, because in
Well, for
in my
ninety
opinion,
percent of that race, he was the world
yeah,
champion, right?
yeah. I mean, but for people that might not watch Formula One, that can be like the case. You can lead a race for so long, and then all of a sudden, safety car comes out, everyone gets bunched up again, and it's almost like back to square one,
Yeah.
and you go again. But it was I'd never seen it before. I'd never seen anything like that. So, just a brief explanation is Lewis Hamilton, like you said, for possibly more than 90%, 95% of the race was well ahead. Safety car came out because there was a crash, and loads of people pitted in as they do because it's almost like a free pit stop
Yeah.
you get, and change their tires. And then there was sort of, I think it was 5 cars in between Hamilton and Verstappen, and they were basically allowed to unlap themselves because Hamilton was first and Verstappen was second, although there were 5 cars in between them because these cars had been lapped. And for me, it was for Netflix. That's all it was for.
Yeah.
And it was such a shame, but it still is my sporting moment of the year because it was such a big thing and because I hadn't seen anything like that
Yeah.
in my lifetime watching Formula One ever. And it was just such a shame, but it was so huge.
I think they've succeeded in doing exactly what they wanted to do. We all, I think anyone who's watched it, I go back to 93, 94, Nigel Mansell
Yeah,
days was when I was
yeah,
first
yeah,
watching
yeah.
Formula One, and fell out of love with it a little bit during Vettel's dominance. I found that era very quite boring.
Do you know what? Just a quick one. Let me just jump in because I think that is possibly because we had the Schumacher era, and I don't want to say it's because Vettel is German,
Yeah,
but if you weren't solid into Formula One and you didn't know Vettel's, how he is, how he comes across on camera, if you hadn't watched interviews with him, you might just think, oh, for God's sake, here we go again.
yeah,
Like he's just this is just going to be boring,
yeah,
just win, win, win after win. I think he won four on the trot, like
yeah,
and maybe for people that aren't British, maybe that's how they look at Hamilton
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, for sure.
So maybe other people maybe around the world aren't as upset about what happened. But yeah, you were saying so like you fell out of love with it with
Yeah, I felt like I loved it
when
during that era.
Vettel.
Just it was not just Vettel, but it was like a Red Bull dominance. It was like there was no
Mm,
one was coming close to touching them. So, but
yeah,
I've always watched it, and I just for me, they set out to do what they achieved, which was to make it exciting, to make it
yeah,
blockbuster. But for me, I think it's the most historic finish to a season anyway, because you've got in the modern era two absolute greats going up head to head in the final race of the season on exactly the same points after a lot of controversy, a great season anyway.
yeah,
To then do something that's never been done that deliberately disadvantages one person or the other. It's like
yeah.
if that had been done several times before, I don't think it would have been an issue. But they kind of set a precedent where it's like, do you know what? On the final lap of the final race of the season, when everything's on the line, it's neck and neck. We can just change the rules to make it banter. Like it just
Exciting. That's what it is. That's
yeah.
exactly what it was. It
And
was done for banter
that's why it came second
in
in
your
my
sporting.
in my sporting moment of the year. But the one I did pick was the one that you didn't pick, and that was Emma Raducanu winning the US Open. And it wasn't
Yeah,
necessarily. I'm not a massive tennis fan. I do watch it. I'm loving
neither
the
am
fact.
I. And I'll be honest, I totally missed the final because of the times that they were playing the previous rounds.
Yeah,
I knew it was on,
yeah,
but I didn't know it was on at I think it was on actually at 10 p.m. So that's watchable for us over here.
yeah. I think
But
it
I just
started.
assumed it was like midnight or
Yeah.
like 1, 2 a.m. And I thought, oh, you know what, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't love it that much.
The reason it's the sporting moment for me, it's not necessarily just because of the match itself wasn't that great. I mean, she was good. She won in straight sets. It was what it was. It wasn't like
Yeah.
she kind of walked through. The woman she was playing against is also another young girl.
I was going to
So
say that the because obviously I've watched it and she wasn't amazing, the other woman, but that doesn't take nothing away from
no,
Emma Raducanu,
and
what she did.
they're both very young, so they've clearly both got a future. But the reason it was so cool for me was because, fun enough, my gran, I had moved into a new place
Yeah,
during the course of this year. And on that day that the final happened, I had to go and put together a load of furniture for her. So we had it on in the living room whilst I was there putting together all this IKEA flat pack shit.
yeah,
So I was able to sit with my gran and watch something, which we hadn't really been able to do for the entirety of COVID. And then the other thing that made it quite special was the school that Emma Raducanu went to and the house that she lives in is about 4 streets away from where my gran lives. So it was like a big,
oh no way.
yeah, so it was a big local thing.
Where is that?
In
Where
Bromley.
is
She's from Bromley.
oh, she's from Bromley, yeah.
Yeah, so she lives down by Bromley Common and she went to school
Yeah,
down there towards Alpington. So literally, like her school is, you can, if you were to stand on my nan's roof, you could see it. Like it's that close.
bro, that's mad.
So yeah, for us, it was like, my nan's like in her 80s and she was getting super into it. So for me, watching it and seeing how gas my nan got and stuff, that's what kind of pushed it over the edge. But the
Yeah, so
Hamilton,
it was quite personal, wasn't it? It's like
yeah, but whereas the
personal.
Hamilton and the Verstappen thing, I was actually watching it on the cross trainer in the gym. And I spoke about this on the last episode with Greg Brazil when we were texting each other. We
Mm,
recorded an episode straight after. They were
yeah.
still, when we were recording, they were still actually having a debate back and forth with the FIA. So we didn't know by the time
What
the
was happening?
episode
Yeah,
finished.
what the outcome was, or
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was like crazy, and like being on a cross trainer, watching it on my blower, just like what's going on? What's going
I
on?
know,
Like,
I
it was
know,
mad,
I
but
know. I
but
think, I
yeah,
think, I think it was Gary Lineker. He put it really well. I won't quote it like bang on, but it was something like, imagine Chelsea and Man City are going for the league, and they've got like the last game of the season. Whoever wins the league, and then Man City are 3-0 up in the
Suddenly
90th
it's
minute,
next goal wins.
and then it's next goal wins or penalty shootout. you know, um, and that's what it felt like, because I think as soon as that decision was made by the race director Michael Massey, it was he knew what the outcome would. Everyone knew what the outcome would be. It doesn't matter how good you are. Like
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton would have struggled to fight off anyone on that grid had they been that close to him at the restart, which Verstappen was, which he's entitled to be, and on fresher tyres. Like Hamilton's going in on 40 lap old tyres, trying to battle Verstappen. And just for balance, I before the race I did tweet and said that I did want Verstappen to win,
Yeah.
and only because I've seen his journey for such a long time, and I thought, you know what, I said, but it has to be clean.
Yeah.
The race has to be clean. And the unfortunate thing is that it's messed up for Verstappen as well, because he hasn't, he's not enjoyed it how he should enjoy it.
Yeah, it's kind of taking the edge off. It's a little bit like Liverpool winning the Premier League and there's no fans and we never were able to celebrate it. Do you know what I mean? It's like it
Yeah,
was
unfortunately.
uh, no, I mean it's an achievement and it was
Yeah.
great to
No, I know, I
see
know,
everything
I
else.
know, but
But
just it's just
it,
not your perfect dream,
no, it
as
taints it. It does taint it. Moving on from sports though, obviously, during we have still had lockdowns in
yeah.
2021 and we've had restrictions and
Hmm.
stuff. So we've all had plenty of time to get in front of the TV. So I was wondering, what was your favorite show of the last 12 months?
Oh, I think there's only the one clear winner, isn't there?
I think that's probably the biggest, and I enjoyed it, and I know what everyone's going to say, but it's
I hope
probably
we're saying the same thing.
it's
Squid Games.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the one I've picked because I've watched so much fucking shit, so I've got loads of options. But
Yeah, see, I'm not massive in like watching TV. Like
yeah,
I'm really not. Like I'll like read books or podcasts or you know computer like PlayStation whatever. So I'm not massive into watching TV. So it was an easy one for me to pick because it was like stand out, and I thought it was quite refreshing as
yeah,
well, because it wasn't like, although there was some messed up stuff on there, it wasn't like serious. Like you looked at the main character, and for the life of me, I'm not going to try and say everyone's name on there. And it was, I sort of was busting up every time I saw him. Just like he had that face, where like it was almost like comical.
yeah,
And so it was like, and obviously the whole storyline's insane. But I definitely think there's something to take from it, like the greed of people and like the lengths that people may go to. Like it's not an accurate representation, but it bloody comes close.
yeah. No, for sure,
You
and
know.
it is a great show, and it's really good to see how big a lot of Korean stuff is getting. I was a big fan of. I've spoken about this show before, but I was a big fan of a show called The Kingdom, which is also on Netflix, and it's a Korean show set in I don't know, like the 1600s, and
Right.
it's kind of like
Oh, I haven't seen it, but I know
yeah,
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
it's basically a zombie series. It's like a Walking Dead, but it's like with like the Korean equivalent of samurais and shit. Like it's fucking dope.
Yeah, yeah.
And I loved that, and I really loved Parasite, and I've like me and my missus watch a lot of Korean dramas and
Yeah,
soaps
see,
and
I
stuff.
wasn't a huge fan of Parasite.
I loved it, absolutely loved it. But
I
I
don't,
just
I don't, I
love,
don't know. Like it was a good film, but like I think it won did it win an Academy Award? I can't remember.
yeah, best picture, yeah,
Yeah, so I remember that coming up and thinking, like, God, no, like it's just like, oh, that's out there, so let's pick that film.
yeah.
Like I didn't find it, like it wasn't like amazing. It's almost like what's that film with it's got Jodie Foster in it, and the guy hides in the bank. Um, oh God, can't remember. But anyway, this guy hides in a bank and pretends to do like a stick up, and then they sort of plaster him behind this wall and stuff. And it was kind of like similar to that. It was a bit like yeah,
Yeah,
but
no,
but
I enjoy Parasite a lot, and I like the fact that I think there's a lot of good. As I say, we watch a lot of Korean stuff, so
yeah, yeah,
there's a lot
yeah,
of really good Korean shows out there, and I was really happy that Squid Game has ended up being the biggest show Netflix have ever had, which is like it's great. It's great just in
yeah,
terms of introducing people to an entirely different style of cinema, and I hope
yeah.
that. I hope that success can translate over to the new season of The Kingdom when that comes out at some point.
Someone did tell me that Squid Games got rejected like 4 times by Netflix, I think.
Wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised.
Which is, I don't know. I'm surprised at that, but like, obviously I don't know the ins and outs of how Netflix works. But I thought it was amazing. I thought every character um, played their part. There was something there for everyone. Like every character, you could relate to a character or go, I know someone like them. I know someone like them, and I think that's key when you're
Yeah,
making a TV series.
absolutely. For me, I had a couple of honorable mentions. One of them was Squid Game because I do think it's just worth
Yeah.
mentioning it. I recently watched on iPlayer the Salisbury Poisonings, which was like a
Oh yeah,
dramatization.
yeah. I
Yeah,
watched it as well. I only literally watched it, I think 2 weeks ago.
yeah, that was really, really good. I watched it just before Christmas as well. Actually, no, I watched it in between Christmas and New Year, so that was good. But my
Was that
show,
2021? Was it?
yeah, it was very recent.
Oh right, okay,
Um,
okay. Because sometimes when these things pop up on Netflix and I see it's from BBC,
yeah,
I think we did have an example of that actually. I can't remember when it was, and I remember texting one of my friends said, "Oh, have you seen this?" And you're like, "You're late, man. That was on BBC iPlayer 2 years ago." All right, mate. I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, it just asked me if I watched it.
yeah, man. But that was really, really good. I enjoyed that a lot. So that was probably one of my favorites. But the show for me and it's very different. I don't think a lot of people saw it. It's another Netflix show, and it's called The Chair, and it's with Sandra Oh,
Uh,
who's in Killing Eve. She's the Asian woman from Killing Eve,
yeah,
and
no
she was
kidding.
also one of the stars of Grey's Anatomy. It's a really, really good series. It's short episodes. I mean, you could bang it out in an evening, like it's like six, seven, eight
Yeah,
episodes, half an hour long each. It's not a long drawn out thing. And it's just about she's the faculty chair at a university and an English professor and stuff like that. And some stuff goes on with regards to some racist stuff and it shows a lot about current university culture and how people
yeah,
blow silly things out of proportion and the politics that goes on behind education. It was really, really interesting. And I hope they do a second series because it was also funny as fuck as well. So that for me
yeah,
was the
man.
show of the year. So it's an out there pick, but if anyone has the opportunity to sit and watch it, then I'll recommend it. The Chair
Did
on
you
Netflix.
watch? Did you watch Four Lives,
No, no, haven't seen that.
which was a drama about the grinder killer? So it was a
No,
guy that.
no, I'm
So it's
saving
got
it.
Stephen Merchant. Okay.
Yeah, I'm saving
All
it.
right. Well, watch it and then get back to me on the acting. I think
Yeah,
I think there's, I
that
think we need
came
to have
up.
a serious discussion about the acting in Four Lives.
That came up at work yesterday because we were talking about that new one, Stay Close, which I've also watched.
Yeah.
But we were also talking about one of my friends at work had seen recently. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before it came out, but Des, which was
Oh
the
yeah,
serial killer from Muswell Hill, and it was David
yeah.
Tennant playing him, and the acting in that was on another planet. Like that was crazy. So yeah, shouts out to The Chair on Netflix. That was
Yeah. I'm going to give that a go. You should put that in the link and description. That's what you need to get used to saying, Jake. Put it in the. I'm going to put it in the link in the description below.
Mate, when Netflix start advertising me, I'll start advertising Netflix.
All right. Well, you've at least got to do the click subscribe and
Yeah,
point down
yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah. All
know
of that good
what
stuff.
I mean?
Movie of the year for you. What was the favorite film you saw?
Mm, easy one. Spider-Man. No Way Home. Oh my God. Do you know what? I might have said it to you, but I definitely said it to someone else that if you're hardcore, if you're a hardcore, oh no, actually, I saw it before you, didn't I? So I
Yeah,
didn't want to talk too much about it. But if you were a hardcore Spider-Man fan, if I'm talking from day, then it would be like an 11 out of 10. Like it
yeah.
has to be. I can't see it not being. But even for me, because I'd never seen an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man ever.
Okay.
Yeah, never. And I thought it was brilliant how they worked it all together. Because the thing is like like I've got kids and they'll say like I don't know if you see Tobey Maguire on telly or something, and I'll say, "Oh, look, Spider-Man," and they're like, "Who are you talking about?" You know what I mean? Obviously, they know now because they've seen like loads of like YouTube clips and whatever.
Yep.
But to bring it all together in that way, for me, it was amazing, amazing. And
I think
he's
it's
got to be up there with one of the best. I don't know actually. Who's your favourite Spider-Man?
it's tough
I'm
because
I'm going Tom Holland.
I
But
grew up with Tobey Maguire, but I actually
yeah,
think based on this latest film that Tom Holland has surpassed him, and he's from South London, so we've got to big him up.
He's a Spurs fan as well.
Apparently so. Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I
What
don't know
was
how true that is, but
who is it he asked to go to Spurs? Did he ask a player to go to Spurs the other day?
oh, Mbappe. Yeah,
Mbappe.
it's like asking. It's like me asking. Well, it's like me asking the Queen to come around here and have a
uh,
cup of tea with me. You
how
know,
could you refuse Spider-Man though? Do you know what I mean? It's difficult, isn't
I'd be there.
it?
You know, if it was me, yeah, I'd have signed for Spurs.
I loved it, but as I said to you, I went to view around your way the first time,
Yeah, Angel. Yeah.
and I watched it, and there were just too many people like making noise and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah. I did idiots behind you, didn't you?
Yeah, so that kind of half took the shine off it. But I went to see it again on Boxing Day, so I saw it on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve, and then Boxing Day, my missus was
Oh, I never knew you went to see it again.
yeah, so we went to an Odeon Lux and we had like the big recliners and stuff. Just like
Yeah.
Boxing Day, we got up in the morning. I was like, "Fuck it, let's go out." We went down to Putney lunchtime, went in there and watched it there, and it was great. And she really loved it, and I had an even better time the second time around. Like it holds up with a second watch. So yeah,
Yeah. Most films do. Most films do. You know,
it's
because
up
you.
there. It's up
Yeah.
there for
Yeah.
me, but it wasn't actually my film of the year. I also really enjoyed. I love Marvel films. I'd always go to the cinema to see a Marvel film.
Yeah.
I went to see Black Widow. That was good. Eternals, yeah.
I thought Black Widow was great.
I
Actually,
really
I
enjoyed that.
actually really enjoy, and because it's always going to be extremely difficult to sort of match like an Avengers film or the traditional ones like Iron Man and stuff. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah,
Like your Thor Ragnaroks and all that. They're like mega classics. But I thought she done well. I think she produced it as well, didn't she? I think.
I think so. But that was good. But the one I enjoyed the most, apart from Spider-Man, was Shang-Chi. I absolutely loved
Oh yeah, yeah,
Shang-Chi.
that was good. That was
That
good.
film was so much fun.
Yeah,
And again, I love the fact that it's like gone into a different culture, much like what with Black Panther did, like it's like
yeah,
it's branching the MCU out to not only its own, American Western audiences, but it's
yeah.
introducing different aspects. And the part where they walk in the room and Ben Kingsley's there just had me in fucking hysterics.
I know, I know, I know. Because it
So
all
much
links it,
fun.
you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
links in. You're like, all right, here we go.
Goes
And
all
obviously,
the
he's
way
just
back to
classic.
the original Iron Man films, so
Yeah,
but for
yeah.
me,
No, it was. I thought it was a great film actually. That
yeah,
that for me, it probably would have been my second
yeah.
when I'm thinking about it now.
For me, my favorite film of the year, and again, this one's a very different choice, was actually Cruella.
Oh, okay,
For anyone who's seen that, and if you
yeah,
haven't,
I've seen it
if
a
you
couple of
haven't
times
seen it,
actually because of
go and
kids.
watch it. It's yeah, Emma Stone is excellent. I was surprised. I didn't want to go because I've got a Fire Stick that's got a load of iffy channels and movies on it.
Looking at my one right now. That's it plugged into the back
um,
of my telly.
but I still do go to the cinema quite regularly. And my missus wanted to see Cruella, and we were like, I'm in an R in. Do we spend money? Do we go out? It was a cold day. It was raining and shit. And I was like, nah, I've got it. Like, it doesn't seem like a cinema movie, so let's just watch it indoors. Mate,
Yeah,
I wish I'd gone to the cinema to see it because I really,
yeah.
really enjoyed that film.
Well,
It's
you went to the cinema to see Black Widow, yeah? Or
yeah,
did you stay? I didn't. Um, I think maybe you lose a little something watching it at home.
yeah, you do with certain films. I mean, there's other films you watch.
Mm.
Like I watched a film. It would have been my film of the year, apart from the fact it came out about 2 years ago. But a film called Dark Water with Mark Ruffalo, and he's
Oh, Mark Ruffalo, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he
Sort of
plays the
Aaron
guy.
Brockovich vibes. Yeah,
Basically, yeah. So he plays the guy who investigated the DuPont business for poisoning the water with Teflon. Really deep movie. Anne Hathaway's in it.
yeah.
Loads of famous people.
It's a
And
great film. It's a great
yeah,
film.
really, really good. I don't feel I missed anything by not seeing it at a cinema. Whereas
Do you think it's because
something,
the level of detail? Because it's the detail that you're after in those films.
yeah,
Whereas like all the Marvel films, it's big, it's
yeah,
massive, and it's fight scenes, and
yeah,
whereas Dark Water is like complete the opposite.
yeah, exactly
You
that.
know,
And there's some films that I feel need to be seen on a big screen, but then yeah, I mean, I'm contemplating tonight actually going and seeing the new Scream movie, or I might go tomorrow because I like a slasher film and I love the Scream franchise. But
yeah,
there's films like that to me I could watch that at home or I could watch that at the cinema. And then there's the ones like the blockbusters, like the Marvel films. I kind of feel I have to see them at the cinema. And then there's the ones that are like more dark and detailed, like a Dark Water, that I don't necessarily need to see at the cinema. But then Cruella was one of them ones where I sat there and I was like, oh, like and I feel like I did it an injustice by not going to see it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
I
my only
totally
regret with it.
understand.
But I really, I was shocked in myself at how much I enjoyed that film. Like my missus
Yeah.
kind of trailed off, and I was like, no, I love this film. Like, this is amazing. So yeah,
Do you
that
think
was my.
because the London thing attached to it as well
Oh yeah,
was,
100%,
you know,
100%. I
there's
mean,
definitely something there in there, a little bit of nostalgia or whatever.
yeah, it's funny because I've never seen until this Christmas, I've never seen Love Actually. I'd never bothered watching it.
Okay.
And I watched that because, mate, I've never really done rom-coms, but my missus wanted to watch it, so we put it on. And again, because of the London setting and the way it was all tied into, people living in Wandsworth and stuff, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
it had a little place for me. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, I enjoy this. I like this a lot. So there's
Yeah.
definitely
Do
an
you know
element of
what? I
that.
think Love Actually can sometimes get a bit of a bad rep, but it's actually, there's one scene in it where I think cinematically it's quite all right. Like it's when Emma Thompson, who I've had in the back of the cab, and she's, as you would expect, lovely.
Yeah.
Um, she finds out that Alan Rickman's doing a dirty on her,
Yeah, because
and
he's
she's
got the
sitting.
necklace in the jacket, right?
Yeah, that's the bit. And she's sitting on the edge of the bed, and it's sort of the way they film it. It's like it's it's showing her alone, and this huge bed is the main focus really, and it's
Yeah.
massive, and for me, I think it's filmed all right, man. It's filmed all right.
Mate, I really enjoyed it. I've never seen it. We watched a few of these Christmas films. We watched The Holiday, which I'd also never seen, with Jack Black and
Yeah,
Julie
yeah,
Delpy.
yeah,
Like, that
yeah.
that
That
was
that
fun.
one, yeah. It's just like oh yeah, that's all right. Stick it on.
Yeah, I like that. We also watched Don't Look Up, and shouts out to that for film of the year. That came quite close. I enjoyed that a lot.
That was all. So the other half, she didn't particularly like it.
Yeah.
Like bored halfway through. A couple of my mates texting on the group saying, "No, I filmed dead. I
Yeah,
ain't watching it."
my missus didn't like it either. I was a bit.
Yeah,
The character of Jonah Hill basically playing Trump Jr. just had me in hysterics, mate. It just had me
yeah,
in
it
hysterics the
kills
whole
me.
time.
It kills me. Well, I was reading something, and it said he would just cuss everyone, like
Yeah,
literally all day sitting there, like offset and whatever. He's just cussing people nonstop. Like but it's his character. His character's like that, so he's just involved. You know what I mean?
yeah, and he just literally all he'd done for me was he played Donald Trump Jr., sitting there constantly coked up, being an absolute arsehole while his mum's running the country. Like, and
Yeah, no.
the bit with him at the end where he's like, everyone's left him, and he's like,
Yeah, he's cool out of the rubble. It's like,
he's absolutely superb. But so that was up there for me as well. But yeah, for me, film of the year was Cruella. This one was a bit more difficult for me because I'm not really a music man as much anymore. But
yeah. This one was tough for me.
yeah, song of the
Like,
year, song of the year for 2021.
so it's such a cop out. It's such a cop out. It's such a cop out. But I just think every time she pops up, every 3 to 4 years, she absolutely nails it. Like she just gets it. Like, so that's Adele, and I think "Easy on Me" I think is the song. Um, she just nails it, man.
Yeah.
Every time she comes, it's like, oh my god, Adele's got a new album coming out, and you just think, oh, it's gonna be the same shit. But then if you go back over her albums, it's just banger, 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 banger. So I think I would feel bad not to say that's the tune of the year. But I think I didn't know whether Gets' album was 2021. I couldn't see I don't know. It might have been early 2021. I can't remember, man. Like
I think it was
these COVID
early.
years.
I think it was
Yeah,
early
so it's either
2021.
late. Okay, so early 20. See, because I was thinking that as well, but no. As for song of the year, no, I think it has to go to her, man.
Yeah,
Did you
gets
see
had.
her little live performance at the Albert Hall? Did you watch that?
I watched both. I watched it was the Palladium, the one I watched, and then
Right.
the other one was the one at the observatory in Beverly Hills that they done in America, which had done the interview
Oh,
with
was it
Oprah.
was it the Palladium where they
Yeah.
Oh right, what was I thinking? Albert Hall.
So I watched
Yeah.
I watched that, and then the one in America was the one. It was on top of the hill at the observatory. That,
I didn't watch that one. I
mate,
didn't
that was
watch that one.
incredible, and
Really?
and part of it comes up in my wholesome moment as well. So we'll get to that shortly. But at that, mate, that honestly, if you
You know what? You've killed it because that's all.
if you could find it online, that's yeah, that's really worth watching. It's actually she like the scenery of being above the Hollywood Hills. You've got the Hollywood sign in the background, but it was all celebrity. Like Gordon Ramsay was there, Lizzo was there, Melissa
Yeah.
McCarthy. Like, and I'll tell a few stories about it in a minute. But yeah, now for me, song of the year, a bit of a different direction. Obviously,
Go on.
Adele is great, and her album's fantastic. There's a lot of good artists out at the minute, and I do try and keep up with what's going on. But for the most
Yeah.
the majority of what I listen to is pretty much hip hop and grime and stuff like that. So
Oh, okay.
my song of the year is a track from Dave's album, and it's Dave featuring Meeks, Fredo, Gets and Gigs, and that's In the Fire.
Oh yeah, no, that one's bad. That
That
one's
is a
bad.
ridiculous piece
That
of
one's
music.
bad.
Oh,
When when you see these collabs and every artist is massive, sometimes you think, this might not work, this might be fucking dead. But actually, you know what? I forgot about Dave. I feel bad.
nowadays everybody want to talk, but they forgot about Dave. What's going on? But yeah, like for me, it starts off with like Fredo and Meeks, and then you've got like Get Some Gigs come on there, and then it finishes with Dave. It's just and the actual production, the track itself, the little vocal sample in it, everything, the hook, it's just for me.
Yeah,
It's the track. Apart from there's only when I've done my Spotify Wrapped thing. It's funny because the artist I played most this year was Pete and Baz, like the two old geezers that do the grime and drill stuff.
who's behind them? I can't remember who it is.
I don't know. Apparently,
Oh no, someone told me, man.
mate. Apparently, they were doing an interview and they were saying they do a lot of their own stuff. And I've seen when they've recorded it is their voices, because I originally thought it was Cass is dead, because one of them
Yeah,
sounds a
yeah,
bit
yeah,
like Cass,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, maybe they are. Maybe other people are behind it. I always thought,
Oh, they definitely, obviously, they get
yeah,
help and whatever. But I think it was someone's idea, and they sort of. But amazing, man. Like
yeah.
it's just because the thing is, like that could go so horribly wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it actually just hits.
Yeah, the first one
They're
they put
bad.
out, the video that they put out, the first one was actually filmed at Looper Street. So
Oh no way.
yeah, so that was what drew them to my attention first of all, and I was like, rah, these guys are like, they must be local. Literally, they're sitting outside like our local pub, like on Tatchbrook, like they're like sitting outside the Pride of Pimlico. So I was like, rah, like this is mad. But then obviously as time's gone on, they've just got better, and they've done like the plugged in with Fumes, and they've done features and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So they were the artists that I listened to the most on Spotify last year, and
Yeah, bad.
Dave was second, but Dave was second pretty much almost just based on that one. I mean, the album's decent, but it pretty
Yeah.
much based on that one track. I must have had it on repeat for about 3 hours the first day it came out. I was like, this tune is bad. So yeah, for me, that was my song of the year, man, for sure. Just going through the list now.
Hmm.
Oh, this is where things start to get interesting. So we'll start with the wholesome moment of the year, and I'll kick this one off because I kind of spilt the beans a little bit.
I think you're gonna see. I think you're gonna say what I was gonna say.
Well, at the Adele concert or the Adele gig that they did in LA on the Hill, there was actually a guy that proposed to his girlfriend during the gig, and he brings her up there blindfolded, and they turn all the lights out, and she comes out, and he proposes to her on top of this hill, and then the lights come up, and Adele's standing there, and it's like it's one of the nicest things that you can see her reactions, just like what the fuck, and then they sit down next to Lizzo. And Melissa McCarthy gives her a glass of champagne, and it's like it was just like a really really nice moment. That was my pick, but something else popped into my head, and
Oh God.
you're gonna
Go on.
love this. You're gonna love this. The most wholesome moment of the year for me is being introduced to Francis Bourgeois. That guy is a national treasure and should be protected at all costs. If people
Have we
don't know,
worked out where his Time magazine picture is taking it?
no idea.
It's difficult.
No idea. But if anyone who hasn't got TikTok or even Instagram, I think he might be on there as well. Francis Bourgeois is a geeky train spotter who wears a GoPro camera on his face and records himself at a mad angle, filming his excitement at trains. And the video that pushed it over the edge for me for wholesome moment was the one where people dug up photos from his past and tried to make out he was some kind of fake.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then he dug up even
Yeah.
further photos from even further back in his past. Like, no, guys, like, man's been on this train spotting shit for days.
Do you know? It was when I think it was when the Henri sort of collaboration came in.
Yeah,
Because Henri's is quite a relaxed and like he's a cool guy. And it just he's the natural, Francis.
Yeah,
He's a natural, man. You know what I mean? Like he really is. He doesn't really get phased too much, only by trains.
yeah.
Like, and I think
I
that for
love
me
him. I
is
love him.
amazing.
So for me, anything that he's done, I think he just put out another video yesterday, actually. But anything he's done over the last year, like it's just been the most wholesome thing. Like we were at, we did like a games night around my missus's friend's house,
Yeah,
and like my missus ain't on TikTok. She doesn't really do the socials that much. She's got
yeah,
Instagram, but
yeah, yeah.
she don't really use it much, So, um, one of her mates knows who Francis Bourgeois is, and her mate said to me like she was like, "Oh, you know him?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they like the rest of her mates were like, "Who's this?" And then I showed them, and they were like, "Oh, I love him. I love him. He's so great. Oh, he's so wonderful." So now they're all like, everyone knows who he is. I mean, people have done like street artwork of him, with his face from the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Radacano.
with his face. Yeah, yeah,
Mate,
yeah.
national treasure should be protected at all costs. And the
Yeah, he
videos of
should.
him
I
going
think it's
raving and
because
stuff like
he's.
that are
Oh
just
yeah, no, that
love it.
was it. I think was it Manchester or something. I can't
Warehouse
remember where it
project,
was.
yeah,
Yeah,
warehouse
that was
project.
it. Oh, and they killed it, man. But people like that, because it's how genuine they are, isn't it? You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like they're not in it for the fame or whatever. Like you've got I haven't got a TikTok, but you've got a TikTok, and you see these people just it's up to them to do it or whatever. Like if that's how they want to make it big or whatever. Um, but he doesn't do it for that. He doesn't
no.
do it for that. You know what I mean? Just like he's like, yeah, man, look, these trains are sick. Like look at these trains. Look at this train. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and I think having someone with a platform like that, it gives other people who might have weird quirks or weird hobbies the ability
Yeah,
to
man.
feel a bit more comfortable with themselves.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think the people that, like you said, do have these quirks. They don't always realize that it can come across a bit strange,
Yeah,
and I think that's probably what it's like with him initially. I mean, I've not seen any interviews with him where they talk about it, um, because we can use the word normal, but normal just means the average.
yeah,
So, if he's not quite, actually, see, I'm just treading on eggshells here because I don't say nothing bad, you know what I mean? I'd say the wrong word, but um, it, he, no, I can't say it because I'll end up tripping over and I'll end up saying something stupid.
but he's outside the box. Like this.
Yeah, outside the box. Yeah, yeah,
The sort of people that there are plenty of people that would sit there and your average person who only really understands the stat quo and doesn't really accept
yeah,
anything that isn't quotes unquotes normal would look at a
yeah,
guy like that and probably take the fucking piss out of him. Do you know what I mean? Whereas,
yeah,
and to be honest, in my younger days, I might have done as well. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
like,
man. Yeah, big
but
time. I know what
that's
you
why I
mean.
love what he's doing and I love the platform he's on and how universally accepted he's been. And it was quite sad when you saw people were trying to drag up old photos of him. And then
I know. It's
when he
just
gave his
hating it.
explanation as to why he used to dress a certain way, because he was trying to fit in with that stat quo. So
Yeah,
I think it's really important that people like him are given a platform, and
yeah. So do I. And
I
like you
love
said,
it.
it gives the opportunity for other people that might have, quirky aspects to them to just
Yeah,
be like, yeah, you know what, like I can do it, man, because he's done it and he's fine. You know what I mean?
exactly that. What about you? What's your most wholesome moment of
See, when
2020?
you said Adele, I thought you were going to talk about the Palladium one with the school teacher.
That was great. That was great.
Yeah, when so that is my moment, and she obviously knew something was going on. She's not silly, you know what I mean? She's done this a million times. She knows the score, but she would never know who. Who is it going to be?
Yeah,
Who's it going to be? You know, and you could see it was genuine in her. Like a lot of times, I sit there, like my missus hates it. Like I'm just picking apart people. I'm watching the TV, and I'm like, nah, man, look, man, they know that's going on, or like they're just doing that for hype, or blah 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 blah. Like switch this off, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. But with Adele, even though she might have had an inkling that something was going to happen or someone was going to be bought out, because that usually does happen, um, you could see how much she appreciated it.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. It
And
was a
it
great, it
was
was a
it was
great
it was
moment.
a nice moment, man. It was a nice moment, especially for the teacher as well. Just to like imagine that, man, seeing your student up there that you had an effect on, that
Yeah,
this person speaks about you, and like you're not you and you see them up on stage doing what they love. And yeah, man, like it must have just been like a mad moment, not just for Adele, for the teacher. You know what I mean? Like that's the first person I thought about. I
Yeah.
thought it just must be sick. You know what I mean? Like seeing this, because obviously she would have told that story. The teacher, she would have told that story a million times. Like, oh, I taught Adele. You know, blah blah blah. She would have said it a million times. But for that realization at that moment in time, you know, and we always, I think those moments we always get a little emotional about. Like you've seen the one with Ian Wright when he meets his PE teacher,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, that he
yeah.
thought was dead. You know, even as a hardcore Spurs fan, like watching Ian Wright's reaction, like it does choke you up a little bit. You think, oh mate, because you're just, it's that wholesome moment, like, you know, where everything just comes together at the right time.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, for me, definitely the teacher. But I will check out the Beverly Hills one.
Yeah, that was just. I think also just for me, there was. I think just her performances in general at the LA one was just a little bit. They were a little bit up there. They were one of the best. She's one of the best performers on the planet, man. Let's call it what it is. But the bit in the
Yeah,
Palladium one that I really loved was where she went off to get her makeup done and she made Alan Carr come on stage and start singing. That got
yeah,
me
yeah.
in. That cracked me
Killed
up
it.
so much, man.
Killed it. What there was they were obviously going around asking questions. You know, getting audience members to ask questions. What would you ask Adele if you could ask her one thing?
Oh,
Don't get
Jesus.
me wrong. If I had her in the cab, I'd chew her ear off for the entire journey. She'd be pissed off and probably tell me to pull over.
It's a weird one and a risk of sounding overly sentimental. I don't think I'd ask her anything. I think I'd just tell her thank you for everything she's done at Grenfell.
Yeah,
And
yeah, man.
there was a lot of the Grenfell kids that were actually in the audience at the
Yeah,
Palladium.
I know. That was great as well,
Yeah.
actually.
So being someone who was there on the ground, and I know Eamon spoke to her a fair bit when she was there and stuff, and like
Yeah,
she did a lot. Let's put it that way. I won't go into detail, but she did a lot and she gave a lot. So yeah, that would be my thing. I wouldn't ask her anything. I'd just be like, look, do you know what? I was there. I know what you've done. Thank you. Like that'd be it for me.
yeah, and that's proper because I'm not saying not many people know that she was there, but it wasn't like mad headline news. It's not what when you think of Grenfell, obviously the tragedy that happened
Yeah.
and the stuff that comes along with it. She's definitely not one of the people that jump into your mind.
No.
You know, and that's how she executed it brilliantly. You know what I
There
mean?
was
Because it's difficult. It's difficult for celebrities, Jay. You know what I mean? To
yeah.
to be able to do that. I think
And
it's
there were quite a few that were there, but there was none of a bigger profile than her.
yeah,
And she was probably the most low key. It's quite
yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it, man? And it just shows what she's like. Like she does come across
yeah.
as someone who's just normal, like, you know, just a normal person that's just got an amazing fucking voice and
Yeah.
an amazing performer.
So we've gone from wholesome moment of the year to the most shocking moment of the year. And this one's,
Oh
mate, it's been
God.
a year of bullshit. So how do you define
Where
the
do we
quick?
start, man? Where do we start? Like, it was really difficult because obviously I didn't want to, like, I was looking at the questions and I was thinking, all right, stay away from politics, stay away from politics, stay away from politics, stay away from politics. And then you just think, you can't,
You can't,
you
it's
can't.
inescapable.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I know politics is all around us and whatever, but it's it wasn't one moment. It's one person that's been shocking, and it's not difficult to work out who that person's been. And Harry still has a job. For me, is insane. Like you can't think of any other job where, mate, you know what? You wouldn't be in a relationship if you
Yeah.
lied that much.
Yeah.
If you lied that much. So yeah, it's the shocking moment of the year is that we have the most shocking prime minister. That is my shocking moment. I can't isolate it down to one thing with this guy.
And the funny thing is it's continuing into 2022 and he
I
doesn't look
know. I
like
just
he's
saw,
going.
and this is the thing. So I could say, I could have said, oh yeah, it was the party scandal. But wait a minute, these parties were done in 2020, not even 2021. You know, and stuff like that. Like it's done all over the bloody place.
Yep.
Like I see, it was Tony Diver from the Telegraph today or last night. There's another two parties
Yeah. Yeah.
on the day that the Queen went to her husband's funeral. Like, come on, man. come on, man. And look, whether you're like a royalist or not, yeah, like you've got to look at the Queen as someone that is like head of state and has some sort of power, and that's how you're meant to act when you're
Yeah.
like that. That's how you're meant to act.
That's really leading by example, is what that is.
Big time, man. Big time. Like,
And I think it speaks to the image of her sitting there on her own. I think speaks to a bigger picture of how many 150,000 families pretty much had to do that.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like it's no joke. Like that happened to a lot of families up and down the UK. People who's like, you know, you've got 5 kids and only 2 of them can come to the funeral, or only 1 because the rest of them can't travel. And you know,
yeah,
like we missed a couple of relatives' funerals and stuff because only my sister could go, or you know, there just wasn't enough room, and it's just like, you know, all that kind of thing. I mean, I had to watch one of my colleagues' funerals online. Like it was
yeah,
just all like, and they all died of COVID. And then you've got the people that died anyway that didn't have COVID, and even
yeah.
their funerals were a victim of COVID themselves because of all of that. And yeah, for them not to be having parties was
I think there was
fucked.
a couple of texts as well. I think from like Downing Street staff members that were actually saying like, basically, what the fuck are we
Yeah,
doing having parties? Like, is this a joke? I think one of them. I think that's what one of them said. Is this a joke
yeah,
that we're having a gathering?
mm,
So there's definitely people in there that have, you know, some sort of moral compass,
yeah,
for sure. But they're definitely in the minority, and you know, being a taxi driver, you get to speak to a hell of a lot of people. You have like such a cross section of people in the cabin. Whether you agree with them or not, they can always be enlightening, because even if someone's talking the most amount of shit, you can try and work out how they got there.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that sometimes is like eye opening. Oh man, like, you know. So like once they start chatting shit, like, oh, like, so like, oh, how did you you know, like, what school did you go, or, you know, like, oh, what area did you grow up in, and stuff like that. But these people that are inside Downing Street at the moment, I can't work it out. I can't work it out, apart from the absolute arrogance that you think we can just do what we want.
yeah, yeah.
We can
That's it.
do what we like. And they're so look, I get it, yeah. I get it that if you had a big office, right? Let's just take it out of politics for the moment. So you're Bloomberg, right? A nice new building wherever, right, in the city, and they've got a roof garden or something like that, and one of their colleagues are leaving. It's not normal, but you could imagine it happening. You can
Yeah, of
imagine it.
course, of course.
But the biggest difference is they're not running the country.
Yep,
They're not
exactly
running
that.
the country, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like soul destroying, really. I don't know how you probably know actually how it works, but like in regards to like the politics of it all. But so when eventually, I mean, I know we texted the other day and said that he probably won't lose his job, but when eventually it becomes too much for not the country, but for the Conservative Party, how does it work? Like when they choose a new leader, it's not chosen obviously by us.
No, it's just by
Is it
their own
chosen?
membership, same as it
So,
was
but
when he became
yeah,
PM.
so
Yeah,
who did? Oh no, we're leading on to that question. I know, but
we're fucked. We're absolutely fucked. Right, and my villain of the year that we'll get onto is another, because I did say that we couldn't pick one direct politician for villain of the year.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I know,
where
I know.
we get to it, I'll explain exactly why I think we are in such dire straits. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely up there. I tried to single down shocking moment of the year, and I tried to. Do you know what I done? I kind of knew that you might say something to do with him, so
Yeah,
I tried to just not think of him in particular at all. But I picked several, and I'm going to try and whittle it down to
real
one.
thrill. Yeah, go on.
One of them was actually the Filipino typhoon recently. It's killed a lot of people.
Yeah,
Obviously, like I've said,
largely unnoticed by
yeah,
media,
exactly.
but that's I think that's just it's an
But
unfortunate but natural thing.
when
I
your
think
other
that makes
half is Filipino and it's like her
yeah,
mum's
you feel it more.
islands, yeah, when it's her mum's islands that are getting hit, then because you know, I mean, as soon as I hear anything about that place on the news, I'm like, rah, like when the volcano went off a couple of years ago,
Yeah,
it's
like your ears prick up. You know
and
what I mean?
then because then
It's a
it's also
natural
like
thing.
you end up saying to her, "Oh, so whereabouts is that? Like, where, like in relation to where your
Yeah,
people
yeah,
them are?" So that was one for me, and that was really sad to see. The Downing Street parties I wrote down just because it's one of them weird ones where with this establishment and the way things are going in just in the world in general, in life, like, and the amount we've all
yeah,
been through in the last 2 years, I'm never really surprised by anything anymore. I get shocked, but I'm not surprised. So when the Downing Street
yeah.
party stuff leaked, I was like, yeah, shocked, not surprised, because yeah, of course we knew that that was going to happen. So that was up there. The one in the second place for me was Matt Hancock being a top Gallus, just
Oh, you
piping.
know what? Oh, do you know what? The other day, yeah. Oh man, I felt so bad, right? So I was in um the Mangle place up Ladbroke Grove.
Yeah,
Is it Fez Mangle, that one?
yeah, yeah.
Fez.
Shouts
And
out, shouts out to Spencer Martin. He's
hey, that place.
that man put on a gut from fucking Fez Manguli, mate. He loves it.
No, so he was in there, and I wasn't aware of it. But there was only three of us, and we were talking about the politics and whatever. And the people that are with, largely not into politics really, but they were just talking about how mad it is and whatever. And they're both, you know, unjabbed and
Yeah.
um, largely against the system, whoever it would be, I think, doesn't matter. Um, but we started talking about like just the whole corruption side of it and how one thing for them, one thing for another. And I happened to say, like, exactly, and you've got Matt Hancock just lipsing up girls in the office, yeah, like, and that was caught on camera. And then I heard this girl behind was like, "See, I should have turned around to see who it was." But she went, "Oh my god, they're talking about Matt Hancock. He just said lipsed up some women in the office." And I'm not kidding. They all got up behind us, and she put her hood on and walked out. And I was thinking, who the fuck was that? Who the fuck was that? I should have fucking looked. You know what I mean? There was no point me asking my mates because she was right behind me. But
Yeah.
literally, as you walk in, the table's on the right hand side. Just as the counter finishes, the tables start on the right hand side. I was facing towards the door, and like I was still trying to look, you know, and I was even trying to like look in the reflection of the door. You know what I mean? But
Wow.
she was obviously some sort of like worker in
Must
there,
have been.
or knows someone, or knows that maybe if I knew Matt Hancock, I might recognize her.
Yeah. And this is the thing.
Um,
This is what's really worrying, right? Is for people who are. It's a weird one for me because you mentioned it earlier about people that have probably got some sort of moral compass. For me personally,
yeah,
like, I know we you know we can always joke about snitches get stitches, but in them situations, I'm probably dobbing them in all honesty. And there's probably some people that would feel that they wanted to do that and maybe felt scared to. So there are probably quite a few people that work within civil, definitely within civil service, but also in government offices that probably want to say
yeah,
something but are too scared. And they're the people that if people that are less nice than you or I see them out and about, it might end up fucking clarting them around the back of the head with something. Do you know
yeah,
what
I
I mean?
know.
Just being like, oh, you're part of it, you're part of that, and blah blah blah. Like, especially if you've got people who are grieving, like the anger in the country is really high. So I think that's going to be a bit of a problem for a lot of people moving forward. And well, I mean,
Yeah,
we've seen MPs get attacked in the street, and we've had I mean,
killed.
the guy that got murdered. I mean, they tried to make out, and again, that's one of the shocking moments of the year. But they tried to make out that it was something to do with social media and we needed a social media crackdown. It's like, no, it's not that. And if it was that, then you would have done something when Diane Abbott was getting rape threats for 3 years solid.
Yeah,
It was a terrorist thing. Like, it wasn't, it wasn't some dickhead who didn't like the fact that someone, openly voted against Marcus Rashford's fucking
yeah.
bills.
I mean, it's probably a combination.
Yeah.
It's probably a
Yeah.
combination of,
Yeah.
I still think social media, like you and I have been on Twitter from day,
Yeah.
right? And you and I have seen it change from like it was just jokes.
Yeah.
That kind of day when like there was like Vine was out,
Yeah.
like where they used to do like this almost TikTokish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like those days of Twitter were amazing. And they crop up every now and then. You might get a little thing like this whole like, and I know it's making a joke out of it, but like I thought it was a works do, or like I thought it was a whatever, a work event and stuff like that. Like these little things are kind of what Twitter's built for this
Yeah.
joke, but it can get absolutely toxic, and I'm sure that Facebook is even worse
100%.
when it comes to it. Um, And yeah, do you know what? Was the MP dying actually that's pretty fucking shocking.
Yeah, and I fucking hate the Tories, but I was like, this is this is not the way we do things. Which actually brings me on to
It's
what
fucked.
was my real most shocking moment of the year,
Mm,
and it goes right back to the very very start of 2021, and still for me the most crazy thing that I have seen this year, in spite of everything, was the January 6th insurrection in America. I think for me,
yeah,
I remember I went to my grandma's in the hospital at the time, and obviously we were still massively locked down. But I had to go and take her some clothes and some personal effects and stuff. So I went to the hospital and I wasn't allowed in. I just have to go there, drop the shit off, and leave. And as I was leaving, I got a message.
yeah.
I always do that. I always tell people like the story about where I was when I heard certain things. It just because it always sticks in my
Yeah, but
mind.
that's a cognitive thing. Like
Yeah,
that's how you trigger your memories.
so
Oh,
I'm walking down. She was in Alpington Hospital, and you have to come down a hill to walk to the train station. As I was walking down the hill, I got a message off my mate, big up Kevin, and he's like, "Bruv, have you seen what's going on in America?" Now, Kev loves a hype and a drama. Whenever something's going on, there's sometimes where Kev's just talking bollocks, or he's talking about a hurling game or something. I'm like, "Bro, man, ain't interested in that stuff." You know what I mean? So, but like this,
keep
he
it
was
back
like,
to yourself.
he was like, "I can't believe what I am witnessing," and I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? He's like, mate, put on any American news channel. And bruv, I watched like ABC or whatever, or CNN or whatever,
Yeah,
all the way on YouTube on my phone, all the way from Alpington to Victoria. And then when I got home, I put the telly on and I was glued to it. I could not fucking
yeah.
believe. But again, for that moment, I was shocked.
I know what you're gonna say. Yeah, exactly. That's
But I
exactly what I was
wasn't
gonna say to you.
surprised. I
Are you
wasn't
surprised?
surprised. And I think it's quite mad because I had this conversation yesterday actually, and I said to someone like, I don't like that happened. I don't like that, the government building got invaded and people were threatened and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
what's worrying to me is there's going to be a big section of people that think and feel the same way I do about this government, that at some point, if this guy does not go, that we could be seeing similar scenes in this country. And do you know what? The American one was crazy because it was all built on the biggest load of bullshit lies, conspiracies,
yeah,
QAnon nonsense, all of this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, but with us, I'm not saying it'd be justified, but I could understand if it happens here. And that's what's worrying, like, especially as I live in Westminster.
Yeah, I mean, is I can't foresee that happening
I can't foresee it happening, but if it
ever.
does,
But I
right,
did read something. I don't know how true it is, obviously, and this is what I mean. Like you just second guess everything, absolutely everything that you
yeah,
hear, like unless it's from the horse's mouth. There was it was a video was attached to it, and it was of these guys sort of practicing rioting, basically.
yeah. Yes,
Um,
I've seen
did you
this.
see it? Yeah,
Yes,
they were
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's almost like a rugby scrum,
yep,
like pushing forward, like basically to break a blockade.
yeah. They're all literally
And
in a field, all in like rain gear, just
yeah,
like
yeah, weird, but yeah, I mean, I get the concern. I can't see it happening. I think we're a little bit more like I'd like to say civil, but then obviously we've seen everything happen over
yeah,
the last couple of years,
yeah.
4 years, maybe five. Um, where you think, oh, well, you never fucking know. But I can't see it. I can't see it happening.
But
I can't
then,
see it.
if you'd have asked me, maybe not even pre-Trump, maybe even just a couple of years into Trump's reign, could I ever see that happening in America? My answer would have been no.
Really? See,
Yeah,
now I'm completely different in that because I'm not saying I had any like foresight into what's going on, and obviously I'm saying it with hindsight. But country's a bit messed up, man.
it
Like
definitely is.
the gun culture, the
Yeah,
actual and that. But when we talk about gun culture, I think we actually think about the actual gun, but forget the gun for a moment.
yeah,
Like the entitlement that it gives you
yeah.
and that sense of like like they're a proud nation, America, and there's nothing wrong with being proud of where you're from, but it can get like slightly delusional
Very delusional.
when it comes to pride of your country. And uh it's I probably no, I wasn't shocked and I wasn't surprised.
Mm.
I wasn't shocked and wasn't surprised that because those guys they've been there for years. That
Yeah,
hardcore sort of like extreme right wing, and they almost feel like they're like like liberating the country by doing it.
That's the
And
way they
we
see it.
hate politics. We hate politics in the sense that we always dislike. We tend to always dislike the people on the other side.
Yeah.
Um, and you can go back to any election, whichever side loses, immediately, and it doesn't matter if it's, you know, so Russian interference, for instance, I don't think that was ever proven in the American election. And that was definitely wasn't spouted by the right wing. A lot of conspiracy theories pop up immediately after. It's a fact. They pop up immediately after
Yeah.
an election victory from the losing side, and it starts straight away.
I think the
Straight
difference with
away.
this one, though, is Hillary Clinton didn't necessarily go out and rally people and stoke that herself. I think that's where the difference comes. Whereas Trump and his people, and the Rudy Giuliani's and his son, and all of the other people that were there
Yeah.
that day, they set out to deliberately fuck shit up. And that's what was so
Yeah.
crazy is the people that went and
But,
tried to take it over. They didn't just go to attack Democrats. They went to fucking lynch Mike Pence.
everyone.
That
Everyone.
was madness.
Everyone.
They set up a gallows, bruv.
But at the same time, it's not surprising because of exactly what you said, the people that were stoking it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Trump, come on, man. Like in the lead up to the election, pure comedy.
Oh, mate.
Pure comedy. Just watching, like I used to get home. That's what I used to work late then. I used to get home from work and just like sit on my phone in bed, just watching the debates. And there was one where I remember it actually. It was like, what would you it was him and Hillary, and it was, what would you do? No, she said, oh yeah, like you're going to let this guy be in charge of whatever it was, and he said, yeah, and you'd be in jail. He was so good at them one-liners, yeah, and like even if you're like a liberal or like whatever, like you would crack up and go, oh, this guy's killing it, man. Like you know what I mean? Like what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like he knew how to play the entire country.
Yeah.
I think that's the most unfortunate thing, and I suppose as well, what's surprising now, and especially in the back end of his tenure, it was like he's really like vaccine positive,
Yeah.
and
And
that's not,
a
this
lot of his
doesn't, it
base
doesn't
have
really,
turned on him.
yeah, and it doesn't quite fit into the mold that you would have thought,
Yeah.
and that's what messes me up with that guy. Like you think like, but and that it makes me feel like it's all an act. It was all an act of power. Like he was loved in New York by working for some mad reason.
Yeah.
Like you can't be further from this person that's sitting in their ivory tower. You can't be further from him, but somehow he connected with them. Everyone loved Trump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Weird. And then when he came into politics, it was like, this is the only way I'm getting in, is if I get these guys on board.
Yep.
Get these guys on board. Bang, and there you go, done.
He was always friends with Hillary and Bill, and that's what makes it all the more crazy about everything that happened. So, but yeah, for me, that was just to be in, like, sitting there and watching just a bunch of fucking mental cases, like with so many different axes to grind, whether it's the QAnon stuff, whether it's white supremacy, whether it's
Yeah.
just literally that they believe that an election was stolen. And what's so funny about the stolen election stuff was, in the lead up to it, he was actively telling people it was going to be stolen. So straight away, the election's fucked. But it's like the things people don't realize about that is the Democrats always traditionally tend to be male voters. They vote early, they post it in. You still have people that will queue up at a ballot box, but for a lot of the time, it's working class people who don't have time to vote on the day, don't have their own businesses, especially in the cities. So they do postal votes, right? We all know that that's accepted practice. He basically said that that's fraud. And then what he done was he told his own people to not do that and to go and vote in person. So straight away, you're telling a bunch of people to not cast a vote, and you're immediately telling them that what they're voting for is bullshit and it's going to be stolen anyway. So a big group of them probably just went, well, it's going to be stolen, so I'm just going to ignore
Let's not
it,
bother.
and then riot afterwards. And it's just, for me, that was the funniest part of it. But when it actually happened, I remember sitting there I think the next day, I think I went into work the morning after the election. I was listening to it on the radio in the gym. And people were saying, oh, you know, it's still too close to call, and this state's here and that state's there, and blah blah blah. But you know, like when the postal votes come through, I think we're going to really see a big swing towards Biden, and that was in the first couple of days. And then I remember sitting there, I think it was the Saturday they actually got declared, so like 2 or 3 days later, and me and my missus just had it on in the background all day while we were like cleaning and doing bits and bobs, and
Yeah.
it was like watching the videos on Twitter of in the states where he was winning, his supporters are outside the vote centers screaming, "Stop the count."
Oh no, stop the
And then
count.
in the states where he was losing, people were going there screaming, "Count the votes." It was like the maddest election I think I've ever seen. But then where it led to on January the 6th for me was
Yeah.
something that,
And
and I
we saw
watched,
some shocking like footage. And obviously in this
oh,
day and age of Twitter and stuff, and you know, you see it instantly, you see it like unedited, you see it raw. You know,
yeah,
we've think of the stuff that we've seen like on social media,
yeah,
like unedited footage of everything. Of, you know, I always think of the I think it was the mosque attack. It might was it Australia
in
or
New Zealand
Canada?
where the guy
New
filmed it.
Zealand.
Yeah,
And he's like doing it on Facebook Live. Like we saw all of that unedited. And there was one thing uh, from the 6th of January where it was, I think it's a woman tries to jump over a barricade.
and she gets shot.
She gets shot twice, bang bang,
Yeah, she died. Ashley
and
Babbitt.
it's extremely sad,
Yeah,
not just for her, for the officer or whoever it was that shot her.
yep,
No one wants to do that.
yeah.
I don't think. I mean, there are people like that in the world that, you know, will get off of shooting someone.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
a lot.
you look at police brutality and stuff, and we all know that it's a thing, especially in
Yeah,
America, and it's a
yeah,
like,
man,
it's an issue. It is, but that was not that.
huge.
People were trying
No,
to compare that to the George Floyd thing as well, and I was like, how can you
no, you
even
can't even go close
dare?
to that.
Like
Can't
he
even go
there
close to that.
literally just minding his own work and doing his job. And it is sad for her in the sense that she was a veteran. She clearly believed in
Yeah,
her country. She clearly loved everything about her country. But the videos
yeah,
of her
man.
before and after and all of the stuff she was spouting and believing, that's the biggest tragedy of it, is people
That is because she's been
walking into it.
hoodwinked.
Yeah, and so it's
She's
like
been hoodwinked.
a lot of the people that buy into the anti-vax stuff that was coming out of Trump's, you know, side of
Hmm.
the aisle, uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and a lot
But
of
not
them,
him, not him
and not
especially.
him,
But yeah,
but you know, a lot of these people that have died because they didn't get vaccinated, or you know, they would have been 95% less likely to die if they had been vaccinated.
yeah, I know.
Like
I know.
that's the sadness when it comes to like the end of their life because of the shit that they've read on social media, and it's just, yeah, it's a
It's definitely
twisted.
the most horrendous thing about life nowadays, that, you know, you're definitely more willing to believe something that's been put up on social media.
Yeah, we have a lack of
Um,
objective truth, and I think going back to
yeah, big
your
time.
shocking moment of the year, I think it's interesting. I was watching Peston the other night, and John McDonnell was on
Yeah,
there with a Tory
yeah,
MP, Caroline Oakes, and she was calling for Boris to go. And John McDonnell was saying, "Look, as a Labour man, if he stays, it's actually probably going to benefit us because we can just point out everything that he's done wrong, and he will
yeah,
continue to do things wrong." He said, "But unselfishly, in for the good of the country, the good of democracy, and the good of objective truth, he has to go because he continually
yeah.
damages society by being there and being in charge and just being a fucking liar when the people at the top just can't be honest. Like it just, you know, it's just the worst in the world. And you can say that for anyone. Like you can't have someone in charge who just literally just like, mate, like why did you just do that? I didn't do that. No, but I literally just watched
It's
you do it. Like,
but
oh no, 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 no.
it's the total devotion, I think,
Yeah,
to power and to their party. I don't think it's a country or government thing. I think it's a party thing.
yeah,
I remember picking up someone in the cab, and it really shocked me actually. I'm always quite chatty in the cab, and it was a lady, quite young, maybe like late 20s, and she said, I said, oh, like, you know, what'd you do, sort of thing, because we were in conversation, and she said, I work for the most amazing man on the planet, and I was like, right, okay, I mean, do I know this guy?
Mo
You know,
Salah, what?
let's not go there. Anyway, right? And she said that, and And then she said, "Oh yeah, you'll know him." And I said, "All right, well, who is it?" Savage Javid. Obviously, I'm like, ooh, in the cab, like, all right. I was like, right, like, I think I can't remember what he was doing at that point, but she was basically helping draft a bill, a domestic abuse bill. I think it was probably one of the good things that them guys have done because I think it was around the time where they were incorporating, like, like I think they were calling it not blind abuse, but um, like withholding money and stuff like that, bank
Yep.
accounts and social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when she got out, it was the total. I was shocked. I kept thinking about what she said, like it's not delusion. Like she thinks that about her boss. Great, amazing. But that would, if you think about someone like that, it's almost like that's how you think about your partner.
Mm.
And when that person does something wrong, it's sometimes very difficult to see that immediately. Like if your partner done something wrong, for instance, the first thing you think of, I should never do that. Should never do that. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Even if she did, she'd never do that, man. Raw. No, 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 no. It can't be true. It can't be true. So immediately, straight away, you just having that devotion for your boss to speak about him like that or her like that. Like it's a party thing, man. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, like, it has to be.
It's that footballification thing that JOB
Oh,
up,
bro,
innit?
you know what? He nails it, man, with that because
Yeah.
that is it. That is it. You've only got to sit there and watch it. Like, you've only got to go on social media on a match day and just see it all just play out in front of you, and you're just cracking up, going, "Oh my god, this is like politics. Look at this.
Yep.
Look at this." You know what I mean?
It's crazy, but so yeah, once again, my shocking moment of the year was January the 6th. It didn't really, and I think just because probably I had to pick a foreign one because I didn't want to face up to the reality of the shit that we live in. But I wanted to
Well, it's comforting that we're not like
yeah,
them over
exactly.
the water. Yeah.
A lot of the time, that's what America's good for. Is just go, well, could be worse. So I wanted to move on to hero and villain of the year, and for villain of the year, actually for hero of the year as well, we couldn't. The caveat was we can't pick and one single politician for villain of the year. So you had Boris in your shocking
Okay, so yeah. That's why I nipped that one in.
because it's easy.
Um,
It's an easy
oh,
get. It's an easy
it's
get.
so easy. It's so easy. Like, take your pick.
Yeah.
Line them up on the front bench and just go, yeah, 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 yeah. You know what I mean? Like any one of them.
Line them up on the front bench and go. Dush, dush, dush. No, I'm not just.
Oh, there you go. Look, there you go. Well, this video won't make it on YouTube now, mate. No, for me, villain of the year. I steered away from being political on this one. I suppose it's political, but it's football politics.
Okay.
Is whoever the hell runs VAR is villain of the year, and will be villain of the decade, I believe, until we get rid of it.
Yeah, it's been
Or until
stupid.
like, does my nut in, like, all the time. Like, you see things happen, you go, and then you see an explanation from like Dermot Gallagher or something like that on Sky Sports, and you think, nah, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like,
It's the inconsistencies ruin football,
God.
and it can happen in the same day where a player gets given a penalty in one game, and then in the next game, sometimes even in the same game, for
I know.
an almost identical incident.
I
And you
know.
go, what in the fuck?
Well, and look, obviously we can bring up things from our own teams, but and then it just makes it look like, oh, you're just moaning about it, because you
It happens
support
to every
Spurs or
team.
Liverpool. But even watching Arsenal,
Yeah,
like, I can, and I think I've said it to you before, I don't watch too much football nowadays. Although I watched that absolute shower of crap yesterday. You lot have a lot to answer for,
I'm
mate.
glad I missed it.
Right. Anyway, right. But I can watch VAR, because it's all of a sudden straight over social media, and you have to sort of take your Tottenham hat off,
Yep.
or your Liverpool hat off, and go, all right, let me look at this properly. And you go, how has he been sent off? Or, like, how has he been sent? All right, Harry Kane thing.
Yeah.
There's a red fucking card against Liverpool. I know that wasn't 2021,
Yeah.
but as we're talking about VAR, it's a red card, mate.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
red
If
card.
it happens later in the game, it's
Yeah.
unquestionable.
Look
So
at and then Liverpool. Was it Mane against who did he elbow like within 30 seconds?
it was.
Was it? It wasn't Arsenal, was it? Did you play them a couple of weeks ago?
nah. It
Doesn't matter who it
was
was. Anyway, we know what we're talking about, right?
Chelsea. It was the Chelsea
It
game.
was
It's like
Chelsea,
he
yeah.
elbowed Azpilicueta. Yeah.
Immediately, 30 seconds into, not even 30 seconds. It was about 15 seconds into the game.
Yeah.
Nah, he's a professional footballer. He knows what he's doing. He knows where a person's going to be. He's played hundreds of games of professional football.
It's the one thing that fucks me off about Sadio Mane. I don't know why he does it. It's not the first time he's done it
Yeah,
either.
yeah. I mean, and Arsenal will say the same about, say, Xhaka, for instance. And
Oh,
then, I know he's useless and a clown at the same time. But there was another incident. See, look, that sounds like I'm a gooner, right? But
no,
against Arsenal,
but even to use the Tottenham example, Harry Kane doesn't get sent off in the first half of that game. Andy Robertson does get sent off
later on in the game,
for a challenge that, whilst it was, I'm not arguing that it was a red card,
yeah,
it was less reckless than what Harry Kane did.
yeah,
And it's like, how did this? And this is the problem. If a referee misses something or makes the wrong decision based off their own bat, that's fine. But you've got now, after all of these years, where we complained about goal line technology, we now have that, which is great. And you people have been complaining for years about not having to be able to review like they do in rugby. Like you can actually see a decision go wrong and be like,
yeah.
within a few seconds, you go, right, no, that's the right call. Bosh, let's carry on. We've got that technology, but for some reason, the people in charge of it and the standard of Premiership referees is abysmal. It's so bad.
It is. It's
So
inconsistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but unlike rugby, obviously they're mic'd up, the referees, so they are so much more accountable than Premier League referees. There's nothing wrong with having a referee mic'd up. I know they tried it back, I think, in the early 90s.
Well, they
And I
did.
think,
They say they don't want to do it because footballers swear a lot. That's their
yeah,
argument.
and that was the incident. Tony Adams called, I can't remember who it was, called him a cheat or something like that, and end up getting booked. And they don't want that sort of stuff because obviously, that is shit for kids. Because I remember being a kid, and even though I was a Spurs fan, I used to love Ryan Giggs, and I would copy everything Ryan Giggs did, like even his zigzag runs, everything. I would do everything I could. So if you're hearing your idol at that point, like swearing and stuff, you think, yeah, sweet, or being a prick to the ref, sweet, let's do it. But definitely it takes the accountability from the referee away, because if you think about it, when they're speaking and we can hear them, you'll get some sort of like, okay, that's the reason why they did it. You know what I mean? But it doesn't work. And it would make them go, I need to go over and view that. I need to go over and view it. But how the VAR don't say you actually need to move your ass, get over there and look at this again. Like, you need to. Yep. I don't get it.
It's definitely. I don't disagree. It's definitely up there for villain. It's been a villain in the last couple of years, to be honest. But
what about the keys of the other week? Sorry, just to say, I think it was for Everton. He stamped on a player, stamped on someone's face. So he does this thing, and I've played hundreds of games of football, right? And you do this thing where you might be a bit pissed off, and you know exactly where that person is, and you sort of look away as if like, oh yeah, like I'm not looking, bang, kind of like the Mane thing. Oh look, I'm not looking, but I know roughly where his face is going to be, or whatever. And he clearly does it, and it's almost like the only reason why he hasn't been sent off is because he's not looking when he does it. But he knows his face is there on the floor, and that's dangerous, bro. Yeah. Like that's not just a red card. That's a red card, and he should be suspended for like 10 matches, mate, stamping on someone's face. But anyway, sorry.
My villain of the year, and as I said, we couldn't pick a direct
yeah,
mate. It's funny because I just got a text message right from my mate Kev, and I just it's just come through on my watch, and he's just actually texted me, and he's just gone, mate. He's got everything that's going on. Like, he's like, I'm not a monarchy man, and neither am I. He said, but to see that them cunts at a party when the country was in a period of national mourning, and she had to sit on her own at her husband's funeral next day. He said, "He's got to go, he surely." So I big up Kev. I'll message you back in a bit, mate. But like
Bruv.
my villain of the year, and this is terrifying that I'm having to say this, right? And this goes back to early 2021 as well. My villain of the year is Cressida Dick. She is absolutely diabolical as a Met Police Commissioner. I cannot believe that the police are refusing point blank, despite all of the evidence, even to put on a show and say you're investigating and actually go and do something would ease tension in the country a little bit. But she is more focused on keeping her job than doing her job. And the fact of the matter is after the Sarah Everard vigil in Clapham,
Yeah.
she should have gone then. She should have gone after the Wayne Couzens stuff. She should have gone after the vigil, and all of those girls were beaten up and arrested by the old Bill. Like, yeah, were they breaking restrictions? Of course they were. But Kate Middleton was there a couple of hours before, and no one had a fucking problem with that. Like, you know, and to go in, a bunch of blokes go in, coppers, and pound on a load of women and drag them out by their fucking arms and legs at a vigil for a woman who
Bruv.
was
It's the
murdered
worst.
by a
The
police
worst.
officer. How was she not frog marched out of there by Priti Patel, by Sadiq Khan, and by Boris Johnson? The fact of the matter is, she sat in a room with Priti Patel, she sat in a room with Boris Johnson, and she's like, "I will do whatever you want me to do. Just let me crack on and earn a couple of years more money." Like, that's what's happened here. And I think that the fact that we are living in a country where we've got a prime minister who breaks every fucking rule under the sun, apologizes for his apology the other day. He said, "I want to apologize
I know.
for
I
how
know.
people
I
feel."
know. I
Like,
know.
it's complete bollocks. The geezer that's been caught out from the Sun today has apologized for hurt feelings. He hasn't apologized for his actions. You've got all of these like rules that Boris continuously breaks. There's no election for the next 2.5 years. So anyone who turns around and says, "Well, you can vote him out of the next election," is
Yeah, you can vote him out. Yeah,
it's
for about
complete
two and a
bollocks.
half years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, he doesn't run in my constituency, so no, I can't vote against him.
Yeah.
So all of the like, we don't have anybody to hold a tyrannical, corrupt government to account. And the thing is that this stuff feeds into conspiracy theories because people think
Big
the
time.
government's tyrannical,
Big time.
and
Big
all of the
time.
anti-vax stuff and the mandate stuff. It feeds
Yeah.
into complete and utter corruption. And also, as I said a few minutes ago, my fear about people taking matters into their own hands with regards to violence against politicians and storming Westminster, this is another matchstick in that equation. Like, this is another straw going onto the camel's back, because it's like, we've also, not only do we have very little political power, people have been trampled on the last couple of years. COVID wasn't a hoax. The lockdowns were necessary, but they have taken liberties with people. They have rushed in different laws and stuff, and the policing bill and everything else. And
Yeah.
to then sit there when we all know, and it's been admitted to and confirmed, and there's footage of Downing Street parties, and for her
I know. I know.
not to investigate the Sean Bailey one, where we've seen photos of it. Like, they haven't
Yeah.
investigated any of that shit at
Bro,
all.
I swear to God, man. Like,
That, but for
I
me,
was,
that's
I
why
was,
she's villain of the year, because she's more
I
concerned
was thinking
about keeping her
that
job than doing it.
what stops just a regular Bobby on the beat, say, walking past Downing Street and going, actually, you know what? Crimes have been committed here.
Yep.
I need to go in there now and, and investigate. And it can only be, one of a handful of things. The police are certainly involved in what happened because they're there all the time.
They have to be.
They're there all the time, so they knew what was going on. So there you go. So they'd be in trouble immediately.
Mm.
So
Or
police officers will
at
have to
least
be
if they're
sacked.
not in trouble, because the thing is, you've got to bear in mind, a lot of them are probably just doing their job and being guards, so they can't necessarily
Yeah,
leave
of
their posts to
course.
go and investigate noise, which is fair enough. But it just, the optics of them being there and not doing anything is especially if they all saw it happen, that's bad
Mm.
enough. Even if the technicality is that, to be honest, they just did their job anyway, the optics of them actually being on site and not doing anything,
Is
like,
pretty shit. Yeah.
yeah, it's bad.
It's pretty shit, man. Like it's not really acceptable how she's acted, Cressida Dick, and I'm not surprised you've chosen her actually.
Yeah. It just terrifies me, mate, because it just means that, you know, if our politicians aren't being great, we need people to hold them to account. And the fact that they have
Yeah.
such an incestuous relationship with the British media. I mean, look, this podcast is going to drop on Saturday, but it's Friday now, and you know, this morning we've all heard the revelations of this latest Downing Street party where the editor of The Sun was there, who is the former editor of the Daily Mail. You've also got to look at Allegra Stratton, who got fired. Her husband is a journalist at The Spectator who was best man
Funny
at
that, isn't it? It's funny how it
yeah,
all sort of like it will never get out of this circle, you
he
know?
was best man at Rishi Sunak's wedding.
Yeah.
And Rishi Sunak was best man at his. He's also good friends with Dominic Cummings' wife, who also works at The Spectator. Then you've got all of these different people, like that Harry Cole, that's a political editor of
Yeah.
The Sun,
Yeah.
used to go out with Carrie Johnson, so he knows
Yeah.
her. It's a very incestuous relationship. So we haven't got a media, with the exception of probably JOB, to actually hold,
Yeah.
and Eddie Mayer, to actually hold these people to account. And then the only other thing that we can rely on is to have a police force that would make them stick to the law. The police commissioner's been bought off. She's
Well,
corrupt.
when I heard her on Nick Ferrari's show,
A
it might
couple of
have
weeks
been,
back now.
yeah, a couple of weeks back. It might
Yeah.
have been just before the new year. And she says, "Oh, you know, like if someone wants to write me a letter to, you know, explain," and then he's like, "Yeah, well, I'll write you one now. I'll do it now if you want."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll do it now. And if something isn't investigated or someone doesn't get a fine, because look, no one's going to jail for this, and this is what pisses me off even more.
Yep.
Is like you're just going to lose your job. That's it.
Yep.
You know, the job that you're in now, I'm sure makes you qualified enough to get a job elsewhere, and you'll be wanted by someone somewhere.
If Boris loses his job, he goes back to 250 grand a year being a journalist.
Exactly.
He earns twice as much doing other stuff anyway.
Exactly.
He's been complaining that he can't.
Sorry, Alexa is talking to me. Alexa, off. It must be a jinx on your podcast.
100%. I think it's
She
because
said she's. Yeah.
Do you know what's funny is actually for people that don't know, I've got another episode, the next episode coming out, the Alexa goes off halfway through that as well. And it's funny because I mentioned BJ,
Yeah.
I mentioned Boris Johnson, the time that went off in that podcast as well.
Oh, no way. See?
Yeah, they're on us, mate. They're on us.
I'm going to mute her.
But yeah, for me, like he's been complaining that he's got no money. Like he's better off just going and doing something. It's a power thing that keeps him in. But for me, we have nothing and no one to defend the British public anymore. And I'm heavily critical of.
That's our last line of defence is
the old bill.
Is the police.
Yeah, and I'm heavily critical of Keir Starmer, but I think he knows that. You know, legally he has every leg to stand on, but in reality, he knows that the old bill ain't going to do a fucking thing. He knows that.
They won't do nothing.
He knows that, but that for me is why she is my 2021 villain of the year. On to nicer things. 2021 hero of the year. Who you got?
You know what? God. It was a tough one, yeah, and I was trying to think like who have I been like? Yeah, you know what? This is good. This is refreshing. It's actually a guy from the BBC, and I know people hate the BBC, but I think they do something right if they piss everyone off.
Yeah, I think it's the fringes tend to hate the BBC. Extreme left and extreme right hate the BBC.
Yeah, hate the BBC. Like, the BBC are just right wing like drivel, and I'm sure they can spout it, and then it would be like, just left wing, wokey bollocks, you know, and then I'm sure they can be left-wing wokey bollocks, but if they piss everyone off, then they must be doing something right, I'll tell you that. And there's a guy on there, Ross, his name is, you know what I'm talking about?
Ross Atkins.
Ross Atkins, yeah. He's a hero in a sense that, like, he cuts out the bullshit. He's like, this is what you want to know? I'm going to tell you now. You know, this is what's happened. You know, I'm going to tell you how it happened. No bullshit, no nothing. You know, no There's no agenda here. You get that feeling from him every time he speaks. There's no agenda. I don't care what political party you're from. I don't care what politics you like. I don't care if you're anti-vaxxer or pro-vaxxer, if there is such a thing. Then I'm just gonna tell everyone the absolute truth. And I've yet to see one of his videos or read one of his articles where he has come across as if he's lying. And I think if he ever said something that was inaccurate, he would immediately come out and say it. Immediately, without doubt, say, yeah, that actually doesn't turn out to be true because of X, Y, and Z. And he'd explain it. I think he is a rarity in media in general. And, if he wasn't at the BBC, I don't think he'd get much traction. But because he's at the BBC, and largely a lot of the stuff he says is, against anti-vaxxers nowadays.
A lot of what he does is he just presents video evidence and truth, clips it all together, and says, "Right, this is what is happening. Yeah.
This is digestible for everyone," and that's what I really like about him.
Yeah.
And he is kind of a hero because he's a bit of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
just cuts through the absolute shit.
Yeah, it's interesting when people see his videos and they go, "Oh, he's like a fucking left-wing shill and he's pro-Labour." It's like, no, all he's doing, if you're watching a video and he's presenting to you 15 different video clips of the Tories being hypocrites, liars, and being corrupt, then the chances are that you actually need to look at the people you're following and being like, right, they're doing stuff wrong. Much like with those of us who supported Jeremy Corbyn have to look back at a lot of the things that he got wrong. Right? It's as simple as that. You have to,
man, definitely. But I've done it with George Galloway. I know you don't like him. I'm a follower of. I've been a follower of George Galloway for a long time, but there's definitely stuff that he's said in the past where I'm like, whoa, fucking hell, that's a bit much. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really say that, and whatever. And you have to take like responsibility.
Yeah, you got to just untie that flag from around your neck and just.
And that's why sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable when and James O'Brien says it quite a lot actually. When what does he say? He says something, you all know it. Just because they're wrong today doesn't mean they'll be wrong tomorrow.
Yeah.
So just because someone said something wrong, years ago, it doesn't mean that everything they're saying now is complete and utter shit. Exactly. And that's why when you listen to sort of the people that are backing this government at the moment, like, you have to take their concerns or their, what they're saying is genuine. You need to work out why. Why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is all about nuance and digging deep. But yeah, Ross does a great job, and I've enjoyed his videos over the last year. But for me, my hero, it's not one individual; it's more of an institution and an effort.
I think I know what you're going to say.
This is gonna, if this upsets people on this episode, then the next episode's going to upset everybody. So, my hero for 2021 is the NHS and everyone who was involved in organising the vaccine rollout, which of course Boris loves to use as his golden shield. Vaccine rollout. Now the reality is this: when we did the first, or it was episode 2 that we done, but when we did it, I said to you at the time that I'd volunteered to go and be a vaccinator.
That's right.
I got the security clearance and everything was being done, and they were actually going to do it in the building next to my work. So I was ready to roll, and then we ended up opening up back at work, and they had so many volunteers that they rang me and said, "Look, we haven't got any shifts for you, so be on standby." But sick. Cool. And for me, I'm sure your experiences were the same. But every time, for the record, I've had 3 vaccinations, 2 and a booster, and it's like every time I've been, the volunteers nice as pie. Super organized.
Sweet, man.
Appointments have been easy to book. I've gone in there. The doctors have been friendly. The people who've been doing stuff, everyone's been nice. It's been simple. I ain't gonna lie. After my booster, I felt horrendous for 2 days.
Yeah.
But with that being said, just the mammoth task that has been not just the invention of the vaccine, but the coordination, everything that's gone into it. And, for clarification, on the next episode, I've actually got a special guest as a guy called Kira Lithgow, and he's worked with MERS, SARS, Ebola, and on COVID. He's been part of AstraZeneca for the last 3 years. He's worked for Public Health England, and he's going to be talking a lot about what's gone on with regards to how vaccines are made and the dangers that people think are prevalent, and the actual real risks with vaccines in comparison to other illnesses and viruses and stuff like that. So I'm very much, as you said it a minute ago, I don't think anyone could be pro-vax. I think I probably am pro-vax, but it's one of them things where I just think over the course of 2021, what we've achieved through literal, the fact that the government try and take credit for it really pisses me off.
But they will, and
it's volunteers.
And I know it's shit. But it's just, I don't think, as much as we try to hope for better politics in years to come, it will never happen.
No,
it will never happen. And those people, it doesn't matter which side of the bench they sit, or which party they're pushing at that point. And it's horrible, but they will all do it. You see the mayor of London. He, if something goes well for him, I secured this deal. But then if something doesn't go right for him, he won't say I've secured a right shit deal for TfL. With because the government, X, Y, Z. So it's just bollocks. But we need to try, I think, as society, look past it, like what you were saying, and look at actually who are the people that are doing this. And if you ask people who is, like, why are you proud to be British, or are you proud to be British, and they say yeah, and then you will say why are you proud to be British, and the first thing that will come out of everyone's mouth is what you just said, NHS. The first thing. And they're unappreciated by the people in power, not by the people that use them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of the country would agree with that, and it's a sad thing that there's so many people that are determined to take an absolute shit on them from a great height. But whilst there's still people there that are willing to speak up, then we've got a chance of keeping it.
And the level of that this government. Sorry to bring it back to these lot, but I picked up an MP in the cab. This was years ago, and chatting to him, what you doing? And he said, I'm going to various NHS trusts. We're trying to basically sort out the finances. I said, great, good. I picked him up from guys, and I was taking him to, I think it was Barts. I was definitely going over London Bridge when we were having this conversation, and I was asking him, what is it the NHS needs? Like, does it need more money? And he said, well, we need to stop waste at the moment. And I said, okay. And this next story I'm going to tell you, what he told me as an example is why there's such a big problem with government NHS. I said, give me an example. Like, what do you mean, like wastage? And he said, well, if there's a spillage of blood on the floor, he said, where 2 paper towels will be just fine to mop up this blood, he said, a nurse will get a handful of paper towels and wipe it on the floor.
Fucking hell.
So that is what the NHS are up against. And that is genuine. I wish I remembered his name, because I would hot him up like mad. Yeah. And, if someone hears that story and knows who I'm talking about, please say. But I don't know whether he would say this in public or not, but that's exactly what he said to me, word for word. So basically they're using too many tissues. That's it.
Fucking hell.
To clean up blood on the floor.
It's like the
what it is. So if you work in the NHS and someone gets their arm cut off, and it's laying on the floor in front of you, my arm, look, it's falling off. You need to think money first and think, shit, okay, I'll use one gauze, patch that up, and then I don't know what we're going to do with this other arm. Just, we can't put it in the freezer because that'll take up too much space, and that's, okay, we'll have to put it in here, put it in this bucket of water that I've got here because that'll save money.
Oh, mate, it's fucked, isn't it? But it's
we know it's the other way around. It's like when someone comes into hospital, it's emergency first. You know what I mean? and then we'll pick up that after.
Well, we saw all of that with a PPE crisis, but it's like the energy company the other day that was talking about energy prices and stuff, and they sent out a whole thing about, oh, wear 2 pairs of socks, like what? Like, keep yourself warm. Just wear 2 pairs of socks. Buy
This,
extra jumpers. You know?
it feeds into the whole like look what they did after the war
Yeah,
kind of vibe. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
That's where
Yeah,
these
sweet,
people's
sweet. Let's
attitude
just go
lies.
back to that then. Let's do it. Let's go back to
I
that.
love that. It's always been the funniest thing about the nostalgia around like people that do love to vote Tory and vote Brexit because they're sold that dream of, oh, I like the good old days, like after we won the war. And then when you talk to people, like you talk to older people, and you're like, what was it like? It was fucking shit. We were
Fucking
hungry,
shit.
like it was cold,
Shit.
and we had nothing to do.
My dad, he's dead now, but my dad was born 3 years after the war had finished. He was born in Belfast, right? Belfast was heavily bombed. And I said, oh, what do you remember about the war? And obviously, he's like, I don't remember the actual war, like itself. And I was like, yeah, but like growing up. And I don't know when your first memory was, Jay, but you know, when you can remember detail, maybe 5, 6 years old
Yeah.
or something like that. So you're talking possibly nearly a decade after the war finished, and buildings were still, smashed and had been blown up and never rebuilt, and the rubble was still there. You're talking like nearly a decade afterwards. Yeah, let's go back to that time. Sick. You know what I mean?
To be
Do
honest
that.
with you, it's been nearly 5 years and Grenfell's still there with nothing been done about it. So we kind of live in that society anyway. But so yeah, my hero of the year, not necessarily just the NHS because every year they do a job, but the vaccine rollout, the volunteers, the logistics behind everything, including members of the armed forces that have come in and helped out with all of that. It's been incredible.
I think they've done a great job, man.
Yeah, and not just
with
first and second doses, but the way people mobilized for boosters and
man, it was really quick. Like,
yeah,
honest to God, like
quick.
even down to like getting your texts. I was getting texts from my GP, from NHS, test and trace, NHS no reply. Like, like all of these contacts are coming in with get your booster.
Yeah,
largely when I was laying up with COVID, they were asking me to get my booster, which I wasn't going to do.
I think the worst one was one of my good friends. I think I told you about him. He, the poor geezer, he went and got his booster. He felt like shit in the morning, so he done a lateral flow test and it was negative. And he went to get his booster that day. Went there, sat there, got it done in a clinic full of people. Goes home, still feels rough as a test, and he's fucking positive. So he's like, and then he tested like 15 times in the next couple of days because it was just before Christmas. His Christmas was fucked. But he was like, mate, I went all that way to get a booster whilst feeling horrible anyway. I now feel worse after the booster, and I've got COVID. So the booster was redundant. I should like, it's mad. I felt really bad for him, but at the same time, do you know where he said he got it as well? It's really funny. He went to, I think it was Arsenal Southampton on a Saturday. Him and one of his mates. I mean, he's a Chelsea fan, but his mate just had 2 tickets, so he went to the Arsenal.
Serves him right.
Yeah, so he went to the Emirates, and he's like, when he spoke to his mate who went to the game with, he's like, "Oh, brother, I just tested positive." He said, "Oh yeah, I tested positive a couple of days ago. I'm fucked."
Oh, for fuck's sake!
So yeah, big up, Nick. Getting into a little bit of 2022 stuff. Wanted to start with something fairly straightforward. Formula One. Who's the champion at the end of the year?
I mean, there's variables here because we don't know if Hamilton's going to actually be racing. I would be surprised if Hamilton doesn't win the title. But if I was a betting man, which I don't bet at all, I would definitely put 50 quid on George Russell.
Really?
I think he's going to be like a rocket in that thing. Yeah, a rocket, a proper. He'll do 10 times better than Valtteri Bottas did. Yeah. His driving is amazing. And he's extremely smooth but aggressive, like no fear. I know none of them have fear, but he has zero fear.
Yeah, like
doesn't matter who it is, who he's racing against, like zero fear. So I would definitely stick money on George Russell. I don't want to have that as my absolute because we don't know if Hamilton's racing, but I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say that if Hamilton doesn't race, then George Russell, I think, will win. He'll shock everyone.
He reminds me of a more aggressive Jensen. Is the
He's
vibes I get from him.
yeah, he's extremely calm,
Yeah,
but just shows absolutely no fear. But he's not. So with Verstappen, I love Verstappen, and I love that he is brave and he's fast as hell, like super quick. Like he gets a lot out of that car. That car is built for him,
yeah,
like the Mercedes is built for Hamilton, and it's not built entirely for Bottas, or the Red Bull isn't entirely built for Sergio Perez. But um, he's a little bit too aggressive for me, and I can only see him losing points through that now, because I don't know if you don't watch it too much, but definitely in the last, say, 4 or 5 races, when Hamilton was ever near Verstappen, it was almost like Hamilton was racing on eggshells, because Verstappen was so unpredictable. But
yeah,
I saw a great one, actually, going back to that last Grand Prix, the decider, when Verstappen does actually get the overtake done on the last lap, and someone put a video up and was like, Hamilton is on 40 lap old tires, and Verstappen's on brand new softs, and he still steers his car like a effing boat.
yeah,
And it's just to run Hamilton wide, like run you off. You don't need to do it, because your tires are so much more grippier than Hamilton's. And I think that will be his downfall, unless he learns lessons from it.
yeah.
Like the Monza one, where he ends up on top of Hamilton's car, is if he doesn't learn from that, then he'll be in big trouble, and he might not be a world champion again because of that.
Yeah, I agree. But with that being said, for me, the
No,
only
no.
real variable is if Red Bull remain as solid as they have been, then I see Max taking the title, and I actually see him taking it by a couple of races, because I don't think Lewis has fallen off, but I just think there's something about sport where you will see people achieve an accomplishment, and you can the only argument for the GOAT is Hamilton and Schumacher now. I think everyone has to accept that.
I actually don't think there's an argument to be had, and it might be, yeah, because I'm British, and because Hamilton's like, similar age to me. He's like, he's only a
Yeah,
year older than me,
yeah,
and he grew up not too far from here. Like you're talking like, what, 20 miles up the road. So yeah, there might be something there which sort of skews my thoughts, but I don't think Schumacher was better than Hamilton. And it's really difficult, because it's always, like when you talk about boxers who would have won, like Ali or bloody Tyson Fury, whatever you could say, and everyone
yeah,
go, oh, definitely Ali would have won, and someone say, can you say that? It's very difficult. These two did actually race against each other. That's a big difference. But
yeah,
obviously Schumacher was at the back end of his career,
yeah,
and but Hamilton, stats wise, is the actual GOAT. With that phrase gets thrown about loads, but he is, like, if you go by stats alone,
yeah,
then no. And people will say these cars are easier to drive or whatever. He's been through like a few eras of Formula One cars,
yep.
Hamilton,
So,
and won at every stage. These cars, yeah, they're possibly easier to drive. I can't say that. I've never driven one in my life, and they're possibly easier to drive, but the pressures on you, because it's easier to drive, is huge.
yeah,
The speeds that they go now,
everyone's in a car that's easier to drive than it used to be.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. So I think it's probably, I think when Schumacher was coming through, then maybe it's better to ask someone that was there in the late 80s to go, yeah, like Hamilton, or so and so. But I think it's so much. It's so like much things in life, and that's why we always say, "Oh, it was wicked when we were kids," because we didn't have to work or whatever. We didn't have these like any life stresses. And I think when you grow up watching Formula One, that you feel that nostalgia, or you grow up watching football, you feel that nostalgia. Like football is better. Like if I was to ask you, is football better now than it was when we were growing up? No, of course it weren't. But if you ask my son that, he's not going to know, is he? You know what I mean? Like he's only 11 years old. Like,
Yeah,
he's not going to know.
You have nostalgia
So
biases and you have recency biases as well too.
yeah, man, big time, big time. But so that's why I always say with a little bit of tongue in my cheek that I would always put Hamilton in front of Schumacher, only just.
Yeah, so but that's the argument that people have is Schumacher or Hamilton, and it's just for me it's a weird one. I don't. It just for me it seems there's a couple of variables here. One of them is that Mercedes has been so dominant with the new car for the
Yeah,
last several years. It does seem like Red Bull have finally caught them up. Can they sustain that? Will
but
they
have they
keep
caught
that
them up at the
going?
wrong point because the cars are changing this year? So have
Possibly,
they caught them up right
possibly.
at the end of this hybrid era that we've seen? And like everything from the wheels are changing. So
Yeah,
where I mean, this will really shake it up this year with the cars because the new wheels that they've got, they're slightly larger, which means that the drivers can fight closer together in corners. Whereas now, really, in this era that we've seen, it's get as close as you can in the corner, and then on the straight, DRS, goodbye, see you
yeah,
later.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but this will be like there'll be more fights in corners, which will be great. It's great for driving. Like as a Formula One fan, I don't want to see anyone crash.
Yeah, of course.
When I was a kid, I was a bit different. I used to love seeing a little crash, but now I watch it and I understand it a little bit more. I definitely don't want to see anyone crash, but I want to see good tight racing where sometimes accidents can happen.
Mm.
Like we saw at Monza, for instance, when Verstappen ended up on top
Yeah.
of Lewis Hamilton.
As I say, there's variables, but for me, if Red Bull can compete and maintain
Yeah.
consistency throughout the season, and I do see Max winning it, I just think that I don't want to say Lewis has peaked because, well, do you know what? I will say I think he's peaked,
No, yeah, you can.
and I hope
I
he
think you.
shocks
I
me.
think. I think.
I
I
hope he
think you can
shocks me.
say that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you can say that. But with Red Bull as well, like their second driver, Sergio Perez, uh, how long do you race for in your career as a second driver?
yeah,
Like as someone who is, like they pulled him in that last race. They pulled him in before the end of the race. Nothing wrong with his car. We're going to have to retire the car, Checo. That's what they said to him. And he's like, what the hell? I don't know the rules and regulations, but I know if you finish a Formula One race, that you have to finish with, I think it's 750 mil or something like that of fuel in your tank. Something stupid like that.
yeah,
Now, if you don't finish the race, I don't know if they have to check. So, the benefit of having less fuel is that your car is lighter and you can go faster. And if you're just that driver that is just there to help the driver number one, I
mm,
don't know how long that can last for with Checo with Sergio Perez because he's a really talented driver. I don't think he's the quickest. If he's happy there like that, then fine. Bottas was used like that for years, and largely, sometimes he would like just point blank refuse.
yeah,
So I'm not moving out of the way, or I'm not giving up this position, or like if everything's done to benefit, like he done a great job for Verstappen this year, and as a competitor in Formula One, I don't know how you can continue like that.
yeah. We shall see. It's an interesting one, but yeah, I'll throw down Verstappen as my pick just because
I'll
I
throw
just
that. So I'm saying George Russell, just throwing it out there, one of them ones. I think
yeah.
he'll be rapid
I think he's definitely going to
in
have a good season. It's going to be fun to watch. I
in
think.
that in that Mercedes, and the
I
only thing
think.
that'll mess him up is the is his experience at the front of the grid. He's an experienced driver,
Yeah.
he's been in single seater for years. So and working with Mercedes anyway, he's a Mercedes driver and working for driving for Williams who have a Mercedes engine. There's that connection there, so it should be seamless. And when he did um, jump in for Hamilton, I can't remember which track it was. Was it Sakir Grand Prix? I think it was. And he jumped in and was going to win the race, but ended up getting a puncher towards the end. So
Yeah.
um, he's got bags of ability. And yeah, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with George Russell, Mercedes, um, with the slight caveat that we have to see what Hamilton does in the
Yeah.
next month or so.
Heavyweight champion of the world by the end of 2022. What happens in heavyweight boxing this year? Bear in mind that it looks like you've got Joshua Usyk are going to rematch, and it's going to probably be Tyson Fury against Fucking hell, why am I blanking on matey's name? Dylan White.
So if you're talking about like unified heavyweight champion, I don't think we'll have one.
Really?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they're both, well, I'll say they're both ducking it. Since that Usyk fight, I don't know about you, but like when I watch Joshua fight, like I feel nervous, and I feel nervous like when I watch Spurs. So it's that same feeling I get. So I don't know whether it's because I really like Anthony Joshua as a person, and I think he's a good boxer. And like with the Hamilton thing, we've seen him come up, since like 2012 when we first saw him. So, um, but I don't know. Since that Usyk fight, it feels to me like there's something not quite right with him, man. Like like sometimes you think you can see it in someone's eyes. Like when I watch interviews with him and stuff, I think, like, oh, man, like it looks like something mentally is missing there, that he's lost.
Yeah, he doesn't. There's a big thing that's missing for me of Anthony Joshua. And I've said this before to people, and they think I'm crazy, but he doesn't have that much character. Like he's not like Tyson Fury has a lot of character and charisma, and
Yeah,
whatever anyone might think of
in
him,
and out the ring as well.
yeah, he's a special individual, and that's why for me, I think, jumping into my prediction, I think Usyk beats Joshua in the rematch, and I think even if he doesn't, I do think Fury fights one of them two by the end of the year, and I think
Really?
he beats. Yeah, I think he beats the brakes off of both of them as well.
I think that. I would. I would like to see AJ Fury for unification, but it wouldn't surprise me if at some point, not this year, I don't think it will happen, but possibly next year, that we see sort of Fury Usyk, or which would be such a shame, such a shame.
Yeah.
And I think all those involved have have to take responsibility for not letting this fight happen.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter who it is, whoever's blaming who. It doesn't matter.
The Wilder rematch is such bullshit. Like don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It ended up being an amazing.
It was hype.
It ended up being an amazing fight on the night, but there was no reason for it to happen. Fury won the first fight. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
He won. So he's beaten 3 times.
He's beaten 3 times. It was, don't get me wrong. Now, as I say, I really did enjoy that third fight. I thought it was great. But yeah, for me, I just think that don't get me wrong. Tyson Fury has definitely got his hands full with Dylan White. 100%. There's no doubt about it. But Dylan White isn't at that world championship level. He's just not. So I think Tyson beats him, and then as I say, I've got a feeling that we see the last of Anthony Joshua. I don't think he gets past Usyk. I think Usyk's just too good. I don't think we saw Usyk at his best against Joshua, and that's what's scary.
I don't. And at the same, obviously, we didn't see Anthony Joshua at his best. And when he came out after, and it's kind of like he admitted it, that he wasn't.
Yeah.
He didn't listen to the people around him that were saying, this is what it sounded like anyway from his interviews, that basically he should have listened to other people and thought he could outbox him, when really, just be what you are. You're a big fucking hitter. You hit someone with that right hand, it's going to take a lot of heart for someone to get up.
Yeah, big time.
You know what I mean? And just play to your strengths, I think, for Joshua. It'd be a bloody shame, man. Like when I think about it now, like not seeing that fight. And that's why, all of them, responsible, man, for not letting that fight take place. Like anyone, because that's the biggest fight in heavyweight boxing for years.
Yeah,
that would have been. Oh, mate, could you imagine? Imagine like the pay-per-view for that. If we're just talking pay-per-view numbers, say, which we all love nowadays.
Insane.
Nuts.
Even if they did the wrong thing and did it in America or Saudi Arabia,
Saudi Arabia, wherever.
Yeah,
be huge, man. And if we get robbed for that, not just as boxing fans, but as British boxing fans, if we get robbed of that fight, fucking hell.
Yeah,
it will be like the what if forever. You know what I mean?
Sadly, that's my prediction now. I think Usyk beats him, and I think Fury beats Usyk, and I do
And
think,
you think Joshua just fades away into
yeah.
like business and just
I mean, there's an argument, right? So Joshua could then go and maybe beat a Dylan White, or maybe go and beat someone else, and then get a title shot for the undisputed title against Fury, maybe next year. But it's very because the thing is, in terms of rankings, it wouldn't be that difficult for him to get back. But it's I think it doesn't make it a hard sell. I still think it does numbers in 2023 should that path happen, but it's definitely not going to be as big as Joshua's only lost one fight. He's then going to have lost 3 fights by that point, and
yeah.
he's lost the fight title twice, and Fury's just gone on. So I mean, we're talking massive year-long
Yeah.
hypotheticals, but yeah, I think for me, Fury's
I
the
sup-
undisputed champ by the end of the year. That's what I think.
and we don't want yeah, I mean I just so I would go along with that. I would go along with that, but I just can't see the fight happening. The undisputed, I just can't see it happening. So, but I would go along with that. Fury will one day beat that, but I don't think this year. And I'll tell you what, we look back at fights like Pacquiao, Mayweather, and I'm not a huge fan of Mayweather. Like you pick and choose your fights and
Yeah.
love stats and whatever, and um, you know it it came at the wrong time, and it was like, oh yeah, still the fight's still hype, but it weren't nowhere near as hype as it would have been.
Yeah, Floyd was smart. He fought Canelo too early. He fought
Oh,
Shane.
way early,
He fought
way
Shane
early.
Mosley. He fought Shane Mosley way too late, and still got rocked by Mosley.
Yeah,
He fought Pacquiao too late, and Pacquiao was also injured as well. So it's like, yeah, don't get me wrong. He's up there in terms of stats as the GOAT, but
yeah, stats
there's
is the go. Yeah,
there's a lot of variables in his career, and yeah, it's going to be a weird one. But moving on to who do you think wins? When I sent you the list about who wins the Premier League this year,
it was a bit tighter, wasn't it?
it was a lot tighter than it is, and Chelsea and Liverpool have really fallen off. So I don't think it's
I don't
beyond.
think this is going to be like yeah. This won't be a long conversation. I don't think
Nah,
about this
it's
because
Man City. It's Man City.
it's Man City, and who did they play immediately after? Oh, Arsenal.
Mm.
And they had their typical slip where I think did you lose the day before or something like that, or you dropped points somewhere that Liverpool dropped points the day before, and it was almost like, okay, well, if City win, then it's City's, and then they had the wobble against Arsenal, but then fortunately came out for them, fortunately, winners, and it just seems like they'll just sail off into the sunset. I don't think they'll be caught at all. I
No.
don't think there's not really.
They'll definitely hit a dip in form at some point.
Yeah,
It's overdue. So that will happen. And Chelsea and Liverpool might stage a little bit of a comeback. But to be honest, we ain't doing nothing for January. We haven't got Salah. We haven't got Mane. It's game over for us.
yeah.
So Chelsea, I just don't think are quite there. They've got a lot of good players, but and they started off brilliantly. I picked Chelsea at the start of the season to win the league. I thought they
Yeah,
were.
do you know what? Well, let's be honest. The first couple of games, it was like Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like flying, and they
Solid.
look unstoppable.
Yeah.
But just like with football and with the inconsistency that some teams can have.
Yeah, I think one win in 5 or 6 at home in the league over the course of 6 games. It just wasn't for them. It wasn't great. And yeah, we've been terrible with draw. Again, we're behind Chelsea on goal difference. We're having an okay season. We're going we've got a game in hand, and we probably be second if we win that game in hand. But it's like we're not having a terrible season. It's just Man City are just so.
They're just
Man City are so good. They're so consistent. They're just.
But you know what it proves? It proves that if you spend, you win.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but if you spend, you win.
Although,
it doesn't matter how they get the money. It doesn't matter how they get the money.
Chelsea have spent a lot, and they're not quite there. Like those two have spent so much more than us, and that's why I'm not that disappointed with being second or third around them two teams, because it's like we can't. I mean, to be honest with you, our owners could compete with that, much like a lot of Premiership owners who just don't want to put out the money. But
exactly.
like our owners could compete with that. I mean, Mo Salah's like. Honestly, no one can really deny he is one of, if not the best on current form in the world at the moment.
On current form, he's definitely.
And they don't, and he's been consistently great for us for 5 years, and they don't want to pay him what he's worth. It's just, it's mad to me, but that's a debate.
What you don't want to happen is have that like Ashley Cole moment where, like, I only say Ashley Cole because he was one of my favourite players, probably my favourite, maybe ever. where you're just like, you're haggling over 10 grand a week or whatever it is. Just give him what he wants.
Yeah,
He's one of the best players in the world. So
yeah.
you're lucky to have him at your club, and
And
just pay the
the
pay
thing
the
with
man
Mo
the money.
Salah as well is, regardless of everything, he wants to be at the club, and that for me is the
Yeah,
most
that's
important
a
thing.
big difference.
Yeah,
It's a
it's a
big
huge thing.
difference.
I think he knows that if he goes to a Real or a PSG, he's just going to be another player, and we've seen that with a lot of
Yeah.
people over the years. So, yeah. Speaking of Real and PSG and European football, Champions League winner for this year. This one's a close one.
It is such a tricky one, man.
Yeah.
You would. I'm trying to think of the final. You know, like who are the standout teams that could, obviously, my first thought is City, but have they got like this hoodoo where they just won't win it?
I think
Um,
Man City with the Champions League is a bit like Liverpool with the Premier League.
really?
Yeah, where it's just going to take one. There'll be one season where they walk out and they win every game in their group. They barely concede a goal. They win every game on the way to the
Yeah,
final when they walk it. That will happen. That when they win it, that's what'll happen. But until then, like what happened with Liverpool in the Premier League, went out, barely conceded a goal, won fucking 20 games on the bounce.
yeah.
See you
Bang,
later.
done. Job
Like,
done, isn't it? Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
one of the most impressive performances in that competition for years, and I think City will do something similar.
But you just can't see them doing it now. Like you can't see
it's
them.
it's difficult. It really is difficult to see them actually.
But yeah, the thing is that when I was thinking about this, I try and put them up against other teams, and I think I can't think of any teams that are better. But is it this just this? I mean, I don't believe in curses, but I'm a Spurs fan. I should do. But like, is it just a curse? They just won't. I don't know. I'd have to go with them, but I don't know. It's really tricky for me. I can't see another team that goes up against them and beats them.
Mm.
But then at the same time, I probably said that last 5 years in the Champions League.
But then they made it to the final and they just came up against a
Well,
really organised Chelsea team.
yeah, I was going to say that the only teams that are really going to beat that I think would beat Man City is another English side.
Mm. It's interesting because I think Chelsea are actually in with a shout in the Champions League, because you don't have to be consistent to win a Champions League. You just have to win individual games,
Well, look
especially.
at Spurs. Spurs is a prime example of that. Our season, that season we made it, we were actually a little bit shit,
Yeah.
and it just worked.
Yeah.
It just worked.
I think, as you say, City coming up against other English teams is an interesting one, because I actually feel that very similar way about Liverpool. I think if we avoid City and Chelsea, we've got a very good
You've got a
chance of winning the
chance.
Champions League this year. But I think if we come up against City or Chelsea in the Champions League, I think we lose. So if we avoid those two, I will pick Liverpool. But there's a team lurking there that neither of us have mentioned yet, that are super
Well,
consistent, well drilled, and haven't lost in the Champions League yet. I mean, Liverpool haven't either, and neither of Ajax, I think. But Bayern Munich.
always there and thereabouts.
Mm,
Uh, and largely these, I hate to say it, yeah. Obviously, like being maybe from the UK, you'll always big up your own league. Our league is quite extremely competitive, all the way down to the bottom. You get turned over by anyone. You know what I mean? And some of these leagues, I think it's especially La Liga, where they try and make it so the Champions League teams aren't under so much. They don't have a fixture pile up coming up
yeah,
to Champions League games,
yeah, yeah.
so it gives them a better chance. So these teams will always be up there or thereabouts. I agree with you with Bayern Munich, and they're solid. I just feel that when they come up possibly against a Liverpool, that they're like, "Fuck, we don't really see this often, and this is fucking hard."
Yeah. Yeah. Or again,
This
if
is
they come up
difficult.
against City or Chelsea, I think they'll struggle as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I would probably discount them, and I will definitely stick with Man City.
I think I think we might see a dark horse hit the semis, but otherwise, I think the final four. I think if you're asking me who the best four teams that could possibly win the Champions League, I think it is between
Three English
the
clubs.
three English clubs and Bayern Munich. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't think,
I'd agree. Jay, I'd agree
yeah,
with you, mate.
I
I'd
think the
agree with you.
football's just leagues above everyone else, and you know,
Yeah.
PSG might sit there and be like, you know, oh, we're in with an argument, and
Oh, such
there's other teams that are still decent. I mean, you know, you can't write off one of the. I mean, we've got Inter. You can kind of write them off. You can't really write off Atletico or Real. Like, there's a few teams that are there or thereabouts. You know what I mean? That could always do damage
Yeah.
in the competition. But yeah, in terms of just being able to get to a final, I think if those four teams avoid each other in terms of draws, which is unlikely, we'll probably get them in
Yeah.
semis or quarters. But yeah, I think it's going to be one of those guys. But yeah, I'll say Liverpool are going to win it because it's the only fucking hope we've got to win in anything this year. Because yeah, absolute dog shit. But the good thing for us is AFCON will be over in a couple of weeks, and we'll have our actual strikers
Have
back.
you watched any of it yet? I've not watched
I've
one
watched
game. I just see
little bits
various
and bobs.
clips.
Yeah, little bits and bobs. I've not. When it gets into the later rounds, I'll start watching it.
Yeah, I think that's standard.
So on to the final prediction for 2022, and it's a big one.
Yeah. It is a big one,
and there's obviously been factors that may or may not have changed your opinion since I sent you the list. But who's going to be prime minister by the end of 2022?
So who haven't we heard of or from in a while? Especially from all of this rubbish. Who haven't they wheeled out to defend this this person? And it's bad really because some of it will be box ticking as well, and the Conservatives do like to do this as well to show that they're a party of equality, X, Y, Z. It's got to be your boy Sunak. I remember when he first burst onto the scene with Furlough, right?
When he dropped his mixtape, yeah.
When he dropped his Furlough mixtape, I was so pissed off with everyone, even James O'Brien. Yeah, because I was thinking, you fucking been hoodwinked here by this clown, because you're putting someone up against Boris Johnson, who stutters more than me, fucking bumbles his way through sentences, like can't string a sentence together, and then you've got this guy that comes up and he's just, back straight. Today, I'm going to announce that I'm going to give away billions of pounds. And everyone goes, now this is the guy we need. This is such a great guy, blah, blah, blah. Not forgetting that what he represents, who's put him there. But the last couple of weeks, there's not really been much chat about Sunak.
No.
He's distancing himself from everything, and he's just going to just take aim and he's going to go for it, but you can't be the first to do it. So he has to wait for, because you don't want to be known as the backstabber. And I can't see anything past him. I can't see any other person. I heard someone talk about, these like hardcore, the hardcore Brexit clown, like that kind of brigade, saying that they haven't got a chance. They haven't got a chance. No way at all. He has a chance, a huge chance. And I can't see anyone else being prime minister at the end of the year apart from him.
There's one thing that there's a positive for him in the fact that he was a Brexiteer. There's also a negative in the sense that some of them don't like the tax rises. They don't like what he's gone and done with national insurance and stuff like that. So there's part of the party that may not. I mean, they'll give him their full support anyway, but the knives will already be out for him if he does get in. With all of that being said, I think he's the most likely to be prime minister by the end of the year. However, I'm going to say something really wild.
Christ.
I think Boris Johnson is still going to be prime minister at the end of 2022.
I mean, if he is, we are completely fucked.
And that's why
I hate swearing on your podcast. I hate it. And I know it's just like a friendly chat and whatever, but we would be properly fucked, because it's not just like his decision making. It would be how has he continued? How has he been able to get away with it for so long? Like, obviously we have no power, right? As just like, I'm usually a Labour voter. I have floated either side sometimes. Um, but how can the party just no? We would no. It'd be fucked. It'd be totally fucked.
Yeah, but I think because of the stuff that we were talking about earlier with Cressida Dick and just the amount of bullshit that's out there, for me, I can see him surviving this. The
If he
only,
survives this, he survives anything. I'm
yeah,
telling you that. When the party stuff first started coming out, I said to my missus, no chance he's surviving this. He's done. He's done because he's lied.
mm,
He's barefaced. Now all of this, like other stuff he's lied about, sort of like Brexit lies, for instance. If we go back to that when he wasn't prime minister, like that can just get brushed aside. Like it's fine, Like you even as someone that voted Remain, I can brush that aside. I can just like go, yeah, all right, you lied, big deal. But here, as a prime minister, lying straight down the camera saying, nope, nothing happened. And then it's like, oh, actually, here's this. Look, it did actually happen. And then him going, yeah, but no rules are broken. No, I'm sure no, actually there were rules broken. Like, and then for him just to consistently get away with it. Nah, man.
I agree
Nah.
with you, but there's things that I will argue against, and one of the things is I said that after Dominic Cummings, and he survived that. He then survived. He then survived. And people said that he wouldn't survive putting the country into another lockdown. He survived that. People then said he wouldn't survive Partygate. He survived that. There's now this new round of parties, and what's very, very interesting, and what a lot of people have not acknowledged in regards to the stuff that's broken overnight, is that the Telegraph are always, we call them the Tory graph, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They're big Boris supporters. Their story, they've broken, the only story that they've gone with is the story where he is not at the party. Now, he's currently isolating for 7 days, despite the fact that he doesn't need to. He's got a family member who's tested positive for COVID. He could test his way out of isolation very easily. He doesn't have to stay
Yeah.
home, but he's choosing to avoid everyone. And what I think happens next week, and why you've seen an immediate apology of sorts from the editor of The Sun, is next week Boris goes on the tour of, I wasn't involved at that. It's the people around me. It's everybody else's fault. And that is the narrative that gets pushed via the Telegraph, and the other papers will fall into that
Yeah,
trap
but
as
how
well.
can that yeah, how can that can't then turn into support from his party or from the party members? It
But
can't.
here's the other thing. They know for now that he is an electoral juggernaut. Now, what will happen is the only way he leaves, the only way they throw him out is May. If he survives past May and the local elections, the council elections, and everything else, if he survives that and the Tories don't have a bad night, I think they're expecting a bad night, but if they have a terrible night, he goes. If they have a manageable night, he stays. And he will stay until the next election. I
I think
guarantee.
I suppose it has to be
Because polls are
there has
one
to be
thing,
some
but evidence
yeah,
is another thing. Like
yeah. I hate polls for
Shropshire was one thing. The Amersham by-election was another thing. But
yeah.
I mean, that's another thing. How did he survive the Owen Patterson scandal? By blustering his way through it. And honestly, I think the story that we've seen, and a lot of people have, I mean, I've retweeted it. We've all retweeted it. We've all seen it. We've all shared it. Everyone's spoken about it. But I think it's a deliberate, through the back door attempt at a narrative shift from the Telegraph. And I think that's the direction they're going to go in. And I could be proved right as
Oh
early as next week.
well, let's fucking hope not.
Fingers
Anyway,
crossed. But
and
then
look,
again, at the same
look,
time,
go on.
it's kind of good for the Labour Party if he does stay. So
But
because
it ain't.
he's
But
going to
it
keep
ain't.
doing this. He's going to keep doing this. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's going to keep
Yeah,
fucking.
because it's in his very nature to do it.
Yeah.
It's in his nature to act like this. So he will constantly. It doesn't matter whether it's Partygate or something else further down the line that we find out about. It's just Boris Johnson,
Yeah.
and but I don't think we should uh, take it lightly
No.
because I know we often joke about it, but it's actually not a joke. It's proper not a fucking joke. You know them ones. It's serious stuff, man. Like when I gave the Bloomberg analogy earlier, like you can laugh and joke about that because it's like a private thing, and these people aren't running the country, but this person actually is. So That's the scary thing about it. And you just need someone just to have the cojones to just stand up and go nah, and then the next one goes, yeah, you know what, nah, as well. Vote of no confidence. Let's get this sod out, or whatever. However they do it, whatever the mechanism is to get him out, has to be done. I can't carry on like this, mate. You know what I mean?
Well, with the way the news rolls, I mean, we've done 2.5 hours on. It's Friday afternoon at the time of speaking. This podcast is going to drop in the morning. By tomorrow, something crazy could have happened. But unless the Met grow a pair, and unless something happens, I think if he survives that's my prediction. If he survives beyond May,
All right.
then
All right. So you've gone Johnson and I've gone Sunak.
So we shall see. We'll catch
We'll
up
see,
in.
see.
We'll catch
quickly
up before
you
the
go.
year,
Do you play Wordle?
No, but everyone's going on about it.
That's sick. You need to get on it.
Everyone's loving it. It's like the fucking.
And the word of the day. I can't. Oh my god! I've done it this morning. What was it? Oh yeah, I can say it because it's going to be tomorrow. There's no spoilers, but it was tangy. Tangy.
Yeah, I might look into it. So what is it? Is it on an app? Is it or?
No. It's a website. Just Google Wordle. It's actually sick. It's jokes.
I'll have a look. It seems to be like as popular as fucking Squid Game at the minute. So
yeah, I know, it's just a little hype, isn't it? I was one of the ones that were fighting it, but I kept seeing these little blocks come up on Twitter, and I was like, "What is that?
Yeah.
People tweeting these blocks? Like, what is this?" And then like sort of Googled it, and then it's come up. But appreciate this as always, mate. It's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yeah, it's been fun, mate. It's been real fun. I really enjoyed it. And as I say, on the next episode, it's definitely one to listen out for because
mate, I can't wait for that. Like, forget this episode, forget this one. Like, if you've got all the way to this part, then you've watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the next episode, yeah, that's the one. That's the one that you need to bookmark.
It's good, and I've got another one dropping after that for MMA fans as well. A year review of 2021 and a look forward to 2022, similar to this, but all UFC and MMA content. So that one's going to drop not long after that as well. So yeah, I've got 3 episodes lined up for the next week, and yeah, man, back on it for 2022, and long may it continue.
Lovely stuff, mate.
Mate, thanks for dropping by. Thanks for stopping and
no problem at all.
Taking the time and stuff. Really appreciate it. Obviously, we've been trying to get this one together since Christmas, so yeah, it's good to. I'm kind of glad it got a bit delayed because all of this other nonsense.
Yeah, I know this other stuff just sort of fell into place. But like you said, it will continue like this anyway, forever until he's gone.
Big shouts out to a man like Rob. We're gonna have to get him on an episode as well because I know he's got.
Definitely, man.
Got quite a lot to say. So
100%. Yeah. We'd been there for 5 hours if he was there as well.
We'll save that for later in the season for season 2.
Nice one.
But yeah, mate, I'll let you get on. And thank you very much for dropping by the Over the Hill podcast, season 2, episode 6. Special guest BQ. I'll put his Twitter and stuff in the bits below.
In the bits below.
Below. And yeah, mate. In the meantime, take it easy, and I'll catch up with you later.
Don't forget to subscribe. Notification bell.
Mate, I can't do all of that. So I don't even know where to put it. I'm a YouTube
novice.
I'm a YouTube
Click the link
novice. There. Mate, nice one. I'll catch up soon.